Chapter 698. The city lord's mansion was filled with singing and dancing. The grand banquet was filled with wine and wine. It was a peaceful scene. The white-robed Luo Yang was naturally the main character of the banquet. He had a smile on his face as he methodically responded to everyone's compliments. Elder Jialing nodded slightly. This disciple of the Greater One sect's headmaster was truly extraordinary. Whether it was martial talent or bearing, he was the best. One day, he would definitely surpass his master and become the strongest person in the Greater One sect. Oh! Just as the banquet reached its climax, Elder Jialing's gaze narrowed. There were still experts in the distance. Luo Yang also looked to the east of the city lord's mansion. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Experts. Separated by 100 miles, their gazes met. The red-robed man stood still like a divine sword. Nephew, it seems other experts have appeared in the city. Old man Jia Ling withdrew his gaze and spoke. Red Phoenix stellar region is vast, so it's very normal for experts to appear there. Moreover, the search for the ancient battlefield this time isn't just limited to Red Phoenix stellar region, so I've already mentally prepared myself. Luo Yang put down the wine cup in his hand and smiled. It's rare for nephew to have such a mentality. But with nephew's ability, even among the geniuses of the various regions, there are few who can match you. I will wait here for the day when your name shakes the starry sky, Elder Jialing said seriously. Junior will naturally not disappoint Elder Jialing's expectations. Luo Yang's smile faded. 100 miles away, in an inn, after a heaven-shaking shout, hundreds of lanterns lit up and cursing filled the air. Disturbing someone's sleep was naturally not something to be happy about. However, in front of the window, the little princess of the barbarian dynasty who still looked like a young girl after 30 years was smiling like a blooming flower. Although he felt it was very silly, he inexplicably felt happy for some reason. With a creak, the door was pushed open once more. A half-asleep wrapped herself in a blanket walked in. Her little face was filled with dissatisfaction. What are you doing? So noisy. After she finished speaking, the little girl walked to the bed in a daze, lay down on it, and fell asleep. A man smiled and walked forward to cover her with a blanket. This girl had really been spoiled by him. Ning Chen glanced back and smiled. He didn't say anything and continued to look out the window, quietly thinking. I'm going back to rest, said man. Ning Chen nodded and replied softly. After a man left, the room returned to silence. Only the little girl's occasional sleep-talking could be heard. It was unknown what she was dreaming of. In front of the window, Red Robe stood quietly. Her eyes gazed into the distance. Her thoughts did not stop for a moment. She was seriously considering every step she would take in the future. The night grew darker, and the lights of the homes were extinguished. In the quiet city, only Red Coat had not fallen asleep. 30 years had passed like a day. She had been deducing, thinking, and weighing the pros and cons. In the courtyard in front of the wing of the city lord's residence, the white-clothed Luo Yang looked to the east as thoughts flashed through his mind. Who was the owner of that voice? The long night slowly passed, and the first rays of the morning sun from the east spilled over the earth. Standing by the window, Red Spectre recovered from her thoughts. Looking at the little girl sleeping on the bed, a warm smile appeared in her eyes. As long as he could protect them from harm, it was worth it. Ning Chen waved his hand. Specks of starlight gathered and gradually entered the little girl's body. At the same time, on Heavenly Speech Peak that was who knew how many tens of thousands of li away, the apricot trees swayed back and forth, white flowers filling the sky. It was so beautiful. There is a woman in the heavenly language. She observes the mortal world and listens to the heavenly language. She knows the suffering of all living beings. White flowers and snowflakes circled above the peak, waiting for the next day of heavenly speech. In front of the ancient city, people coming and going came and went. With each passing day, the number of people increased. Thousands of prides competed, and the winner was king. Fame and benefits drove groups of young prides to embark on the journey. The ancient city that had been forgotten by the world was bustling again after countless years. People who looked at the sky from the bottom of a well did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. On the ancient road in the starry sky, heavenly horses galloped in the air and rushed into the ancient city. The man in the lead was dressed in green battle armor. He looked arrogant and disdainful, which made people hate him. Behind the man were 11 experts. They were also riding heavenly horses. The aura around them was abnormally strong. Every one of them was no less than the peak of the great fulfillment realm. It was shocking. In the city lord's residence, Elder Jia Ling frowned slightly when he sensed that 12 people had entered the city. Where did these experts come from? There were so many of them. It was not strange for a young expert to be at the peak of the great fulfillment realm or even the emptiness realm. However, 12 of them appeared at the same time, and they were obviously from the same inheritance. It was very scary. Almost all the experts in the city sensed the appearance of the 12 people. In the inn not far away, Ning Chen didn't even glance at them. He didn't have the time. It's time to get up. Ning Chen reached out and pulled the little girl up from the bed. Ah! Irritably struggled out of his grasp. She wrapped herself in a blanket and continued to sleep. The door opened and Wild walked in. Seeing Ning Chen's helpless expression, she couldn't help smiling. He was just asking for trouble. I'll do it. You go out first, said Wild softly. Ning Chen nodded and walked out of the room. He didn't dare provoke his little ancestor who was still angry when she woke up. Wild walked over and sat on the side of the bed. She lifted the blanket and gently said, it's time to eat. It won't taste good if it gets cold. Hearing the word eat, immediately sat up. Looking at the woman in front of her, she pouted. Why are you so early? It's not early. Wild smiled. Your master gave you something to eat before waking you up. Hurry up and get up. I'll help you dress. When heard this, she giggled and said sweetly, okay. On the first floor of the inn, after nearly an hour, the little girl ran down the stairs, leaving the 2 people behind. Behind her, Ning Chen helplessly followed. She didn't seem so anxious when he woke her up. You can't control her anymore, right? Wild smiled. He was too good to everyone around him and couldn't bear to refuse any request. That was why had such a lawless personality. I want her to have the same memories as a normal child. At least, she won't have to work as hard as we did back then. Ning Chen sighed emotionally. At that time, Grand Xia, Northern Meng, and the barbarian dynasty were all experiencing war. Their memories were mostly of war and schemes. He didn't want to have such memories. Hurry up. Sat at the table and urged the 2 of them who hadn't walked down yet. Ning Chen and Wild walked down the stairs and sat down at the table to eat. Seeing the 2 of them sit down, smiled happily. She picked up her bowl and chopsticks and started eating. The table was filled with a sumptuous meal. Ning Chen had purposely come down in the morning to order it. After traveling for so many days, he had to let this girl eat until she was full. Wild sat at the side and rarely ate. She was basically picking food for her. At this moment, the sound of horses galloping could be heard from outside the inn. The rumbling caused everyone in the inn to panic. At the table, raised her head to take a look. She ignored them and continued eating. The 12 Peak Supremes didn't conceal their auras at all, shocking everyone present. Outside the inn, the passers-by moved aside. Inside the inn, the guests also quickly lowered their heads, afraid of provoking these fiends. Seeing the 12 of them enter the inn, the innkeeper walked forward with trepidation and said nervously, "Esteemed guests, do you want a room or a meal? Bring out the best food and wine. Hurry up." Among the 12 of them, an extremely ugly man spoke impatiently. Yes, yes. Esteemed guests, please wait a moment. The food and wine will be served immediately. The innkeeper hastily nodded and quickly walked to the back hall. The 12 of them sat down. Not long after, outside the inn, mournful cries entered their ears. A woman sat helplessly on the ground, hugging her young son, whose body was covered in blood from being hit by a fast horse. Soon after, she came back to her senses and looked at the 12 people in the inn not far away. Compensate me for my child. The woman's face was distorted as she cried hysterically. Her motherly instincts made her forget her fear and she crazily charged at the 12 people. The ugly man turned his head and didn't say anything. Raising his right hand, he sent a powerful palm at the woman. Just at this moment, a white-robed figure appeared outside the inn. With a single step, he arrived in the inn and blocked the former's palm. Brother, where it's possible to let people off, you should be lenient. Furthermore, you were the ones in the wrong first, said Luo Yang indifferently. You dare interfere in our matters? Brat, do you think you've lived for too long? Killing intent flashed in the man's eyes. At a table not far away, Yin-er finally reacted. Looking at the person beside her, she worriedly asked, Ning Chen, should we help him? No need. Ning Chen softly replied. He walked over to the woman who had been sent flying by the shockwaves from their exchange and said, Let me see the child. The woman was like a drowning person who had found a life-saving straw. Ignoring her bleeding wounds, she handed over the child in her embrace and begged, Please, save my child. Ning Chen took the boy's pulse. A moment later, he frowned. Wild walked over and crouched down. Looking at the child who was in endless pain, a trace of unwillingness flashed in his eyes. Young master, young lady, please save my child. The woman knelt down and constantly kowtowed to the 2 of them. Wild helped her up and looked at the man beside him. This child's injuries were not light. If they wanted to save him, only he could do it. Young master, please. The woman also saw some clues and helplessly looked at the red-robed youth in front of her. Ning Chen sighed. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. He hoped that the pain of being separated by life and death wouldn't happen again. In the next moment, the red light grew even brighter. It was extremely dazzling. At the same time, Elder Jialing appeared in front of the inn. Looking at the youth within the red light, a strange light flashed in his eyes. What pure extreme yang energy! Within the inn, the 12 unfamiliar experts as well as Luo Yang all looked over, their expressions grave. With such an expert by their side, they hadn't even noticed. After a quarter of an hour, Ning Chen withdrew his hand and looked at the elder not far away. He calmly asked, Senior, I want to know if disturbing people on the ancient path counts as breaking the rules. If it doesn't count, then can killing people be allowed? Chapter 699. In front of the inn, Ning Chen's question was direct and sharp. As the city guard, Elder Jialing couldn't help being startled. There aren't any clear rules. After a short moment, Elder Jialing came back to his senses. Many thanks, I understand. Ning Chen nodded and calmly gave the child whose injuries had stabilized to the woman. Take this child to a doctor. There shouldn't be any major problems. The woman gratefully kowtowed a few more times before taking the child and leaving. Let's go. Ning Chen glanced at the 2 people beside him. Without saying anything else, he turned and left. Wild and Yin-er looked at each other in confusion before following behind. Ning Chen, aren't you going to teach them a lesson? Asked Yin-er as if she wanted to see the world in chaos. Fighting isn't good, said Ning Chen casually. Yin-er curled her lips. Was he trying to fool a child? Outside the ancient city, there were fewer and fewer people. There was a boundless wilderness with no end in sight. The road to the next city was desolate as far as the eye could see. In front of the 2 of them, Ning Chen calmly walked forward. His red robes fluttered in the wind like fireworks. Behind him, Yin was chattering with the woman beside her without stopping for even a moment. Wild had a warm smile on her face the entire time. She earnestly listened to the little girl's nonsense without any impatience. Not long after, the sound of hooves rang out. Dust flew into the air as one figure after another galloped past, creating a wave of sand. Ah! Yin was about to go crazy. She patted off the dust on her body, her face filled with resentment. Oh! 12 galloped past. The person in the lead frowned and reined in his horse. Looking back at the 3 people behind him, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Kill them. With a single order, the 12 galloped back, charging at the 3 of them. What a joyless meeting. Looking at the 12 returning, Ning Chen's expression turned cold. He waved his right hand, and sword lights intertwined with each other. With an astonishing power, the sand waves within 10 miles converged into a huge wave. Let me do it. Wild took a step forward and pressed down on the former's sword. Ning Chen's gaze narrowed. A moment later, he nodded. These people's killing intent is very strong. Don't show mercy. Man responded softly. She clenched her right hand and a light blue sword appeared for the first time. An instant later, her body moved and her sword moved. Ning Chen turned around and waved his hand at the little girl as he said. What happened? Yin took 2 steps forward and hugged his arm. Watch the battle carefully. Wild's sword has been passed down to him by a senior. It will be of great help to you, said Ning Chen softly. Oh. When Yin heard this, she looked ahead with doubt. Was he stronger than Ning Chen? In the battle, the 12 peak supreme being experts took out their battle spears and charged towards the people in front of them. A man took a step forward and leaped into the air. The sword of origin in her hand slashed out, and ripples of water covered an area of 50 kilometers. Dazzling light filled the eyes, waves of water surrounded the sky. Streaks of blue sword light appeared in the waves, soundless and without a trace. Before the blink of an eye, the sword tip was dyed red. A dripping sound could be heard as blood dripped down from the sword. The ripples dispersed, and the entire area was filled with red. Blood splashed out from the 4 figures that fell to the ground. Their Dantian's Qi was destroyed in one move. Their martial arts were crippled, but their lives were spared. This unbelievable scene shook the other 8 people. For a moment, they couldn't recover from their shock. Take them away. Don't do evil again. Man waved her hand and put away her sword. She looked at the people in front of her with a serious expression. The leader's expression changed again and again. He made a prompt decision and said, retreat. With that order, the 7 people quickly left with the 4 heavily injured people. They didn't dare to stay any longer. When Ning Chen saw this, he sighed. It wasn't easy to make a bodhisattva use the Asura arts. I didn't see it clearly. Yin pouted and shook the arm of the person beside her as she spoke in a tender voice. Ning Chen returned to his senses and softly said, I'll let a man teach you on the way. You usually don't learn the sword properly. Now you know you're a frog in a well. Humph. After being criticized, Yin unhappily let go of the former and ran forward, no longer paying attention to him. Mistress, I didn't see it clearly. Can you teach me? Yin hugged the arm of the woman beside her. Okay. Man softly replied. Let's go. Ning Chen walked forward and patted the little girl's head. Then, he continued to rush forward. Yin pouted and pulled the person beside her to follow him. The 3 of them left. Not far away, a white light gathered and Luo Yang appeared. He looked at the 3 people in front of him with a strange expression. What a strange sword technique. He originally thought it would be the red-clothed youth who attacked. He didn't expect that it would be the girl who gave him a surprise. The road was difficult. The three of them passed by one city after another. Almost every city marked on the star field route map had few people living in it. It was abnormally desolate. Without a doubt, this was a path that had been abandoned for a long time. At least, it had been forgotten by the world for the past thousands of years. The night was filled with stars. The autumn night was slightly cold. Under the flickering bonfire, 3 different faces were reflected. Een, was sleeping in Ah Man's arms. For some reason, ever since Tian Yu's origin energy entered her body, the little girl seemed to get tired easily. After walking for less than a day, she was already complaining that she was tired. Will you be okay? Ah Man hugged the little girl and softly asked. I'm fine. Ning Chen shook his head. I've been paying attention to her the entire time. This should just be a side effect of her transformation. Perhaps it'll disappear in a few days. After saying that, Ning Chen narrowed his eyes and looked into the distance. Wasn't he tired after following them the entire way? I'll leave for a moment. You take care of Een. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Chen's figure flashed and flew towards the west. Oh. We've been discovered. 15 miles away, Luo Yang's eyes lit up. He had already been very careful. It seemed this person's guard was quite heavy. For you to follow us the entire way, don't you think that's a bit too unreasonable? Ning Chen appeared and looked at the white-robed man in front of him. Brother, please don't misunderstand. I'm just a bit worried. Those 12 people aren't good people. I'm worried you'll suffer. After all, 2 fists can't fight 4 hands, said Luo Yang sincerely. Thank you for your concern. Although I'm not talented, it's enough to deal with these thieves, said Ning Chen calmly. It's Luo Yang's fault. I'll leave now. Luo Yang cupped his hands and left. They brushed past each other. In the instant their eyes met, there was no exchange of words between the 2 experts. As they brushed past each other, the ground between them split apart. An expert. Luo Yang's expression became even more grave. He didn't say anything else and left. Luo Yang left. Under the moonlight, the red-robed man disappeared. In the wilderness, 8 figures quickly rushed forward on their horses. Their black robes covered their bodies as they silently approached the 3 people in the distance. The pitch-black celestial horses were like lightning in the night sky. They were so fast that it was hard to recognize them. Everyone, your time is up. You should be on your way. Red light condensed and a death god descended. A dazzling blood-red sword appeared. The 8 people were startled, but they quickly recovered and no longer concealed their auras. Their battle spears pierced through the air as they joined hands to attack the person in front of them. The red-robed man's body moved in an instant. In the next instant, blood spurted into the air. It was a massacre without any resistance. The blood-red sword became even redder. How is this possible? Before they could figure out what had gone wrong, the 8 figures all fell, smashing into the ground. As the astral soul left his hand, a streak of light flashed past. On top of the Pegasus, the 4 crippled cultivators had their throats sealed. They were filled with unwillingness and confusion. It was a shocking scene. The top experts of the younger generation couldn't even last a single move. The 12 of them were all buried in the wilderness. The red-robed man put away his sword and his body faded once more. Perhaps the so-called younger generation was just a joke in the eyes of a life-knowing expert. Not long after the red-robed man left, white light condensed and Luo Yang appeared. He looked at the corpses on the ground. What a terrifying swordsman. Several hundred miles away, the red-robed man walked over with a gentle smile. There was no trace of him having just killed anyone. As soon as he sat down, a man gently hit him. You're not obedient. Ning Chen was startled and then helplessly shook his head. It seemed it really wasn't easy to hide from a man. Just what was a sword aura? Since he couldn't figure it out, Ning Qin stopped thinking about it. He apologetically smiled. Just this once. Yes. A man once again chose to believe him. Just like in the past, she would believe whatever he said. Noisy. The two people's conversation disturbed the sound of her sleeping voice. The little girl squirmed a few times before she fell asleep again. In the future, you can teach Yin how to use the sword. After all, I haven't learned much of what Senior taught me. Ning Chen raised his hand and brushed the hair on the little girl's face as he said softly. It's not easy to teach. Man moved her body so that the little girl could sleep more comfortably. Take your time. Ning Chen nodded. This child really wasn't easy to teach. As soon as he saw her, she would run away. However, Yin was still at a playful age. It wasn't good to restrict her nature too much. He would teach her as much as he could. What about Senior Tianyu's inheritance? Asked the man. In the future, it will depend on Yin's own choice. There's no need to force her, said Ning Chen. The man softly nodded and didn't say anything else. Under the night sky, Ning Chen looked at the two people in front of him and sighed. Yin had also grown up. She was almost as tall as a man. He had once been protected under Senior Zhang Sunhe's wings. Now it was time for him to protect the younger generation. The inheritance didn't allow for any excuses. The sky gradually brightened and Yin woke up. She groggily climbed out of the woman's embrace and raised her head. What time is it? It's still early. Do you want to sleep a little longer? Man raised her hand and rubbed the little girl's hair as she spoke softly. I'm not sleeping. Little teacher's wife, can you teach me that move from yesterday? Asked Yin as she rubbed her eyes. All right. Hearing that the girl wanted to learn the sword, the man nodded. She got up and walked to the empty space in front of her. With a wave of her hand, the original heart sword appeared once more. Yin moved to the side and hugged the person's arm. She attentively watched as the little teacher's wife taught the sword. A moment later, Yin seemed to have thought of something. She raised her head and asked, Right, when I was asleep last night, did those people come looking for trouble again? No. Ning Chen shook his head. Oh, I thought they were unwilling and would sneak attack us at night, smiled Yin. In the end, there are more good people than bad people in this world. Perhaps they have repented. Ning Chen smiled. Chapter 700. On the starry sky road, there were thousands of floating cities. One after another, they were extremely dilapidated. Most of the heavenly cities built by ancient cultivators had gradually been abandoned. However, there were exceptions to everything. A few heavenly cities that had been passed down had extremely powerful stepping immortal experts overseeing them. As the news of the ancient battlefield spread, the heavenly cities once again became lively. Powerful cultivators could be seen coming and going, shocking everyone. Innate experts are as numerous as dogs. 3 disasters are everywhere. Seeing that even one person was stronger than her, Yin pouted and said in dissatisfaction. Bam! A man raised her hand and lightly hit the little girl's head. She said softly, Don't speak nonsense. Yin covered her head, not daring to refute. She giggled, then hugged the arm of the woman beside her and tenderly said, Teacher's wife, can you beat them? Hearing that, a man took a glance at the surrounding people, nodded and said, Yes. Yin's eyes lit up, then she laughed mischievously. No one knew what she was thinking. Don't cause trouble, or else I'll ignore you. Ning Chen could tell that this girl was up to no good with a single glance. Yin wrinkled her nose and turned her head away, ignoring a certain person. There's a lot more people, a man softly reminded. Ning Chen nodded. Indeed, there were a lot more people. When they first set out, not many people knew about the ancient battlefield. In a short few months, they met more and more cultivators, especially after they left the Red Phoenix starfield. Another one died. Just at that moment, cries of surprise rang out ahead. The pedestrians were in a mess and they all revealed shocked expressions. How many is this already? Does no one care? A young man said indignantly. There's nothing we can do about it. Walking on this path, we can't hope for any rules. We can't afford to offend such a killing star. Let's go, another slightly older man reminded, then quickly left. Seeing the pedestrians leaving one after another, pulled a person over and asked, "Who's so arrogant? They dare to commit murder in broad daylight." "I don't know him. I only know that he's from the All-Heaven starfield and his strength is extremely terrifying. Several people accidentally offended him and now they're all dead." There was lingering fear on the pedestrian's face. After he finished speaking, he quickly left. Looked at Ning Chen with a look of anticipation. "I promised Wild that unless I had no other choice, I wouldn't fight." Ning Chen refused without hesitation. "Little mistress." Shook the arm of the woman beside her and said in a tender voice. "No fighting." A man patted the little girl's head and spoke softly. "Let's go take a look." As spoke, she dragged the former in the direction of the pedestrians. Seeing a man being dragged away, Ning Chen could only helplessly follow. Were all children at this age so difficult to control? Could it be that he was also like this in the eyes of his eldest grandson? Only the three of them walked in the opposite direction of the crowd. Driven by curiosity, the little girl pushed aside the people blocking her way and walked to the front of the crowd. Ning Chen followed behind, constantly smiling and apologizing to the passers-by. When the passers-by saw that it was just a young girl, they shook their heads helplessly and didn't make a fuss about it. In front of the passers-by, powerful true yuan fluctuations constantly fluctuated. Within Heaven City, ancient runes automatically awakened, protecting the city from being destroyed by the battle. In the midst of the flying boulders, a black-clothed young man stood alone. In his hand was a pitch-black spear that emitted bone-chilling killing intent. The surrounding air revolved, and the killing intent was oppressive. Around the man, less than half of the 10 men and women were still standing. Blood flowed from the ground, dyeing the ground red. Just as the 10 of them were about to die under the man's spear, an abnormally powerful aura suddenly descended from the distance. In the sky above the city, the sound of thunder suddenly rang out, and the wind and clouds rapidly changed. "This is a law enforcer." In the city, everyone was startled, but they soon recovered. Could it be that the rumors were true? That there really were law enforcers on this ancient road? In the next instant, a huge hand slammed down. Its power was unparalleled, and before the palm landed, the ground beneath the man disintegrated for no reason. The black-clothed man's eyes turned cold, and he soared into the sky with his spear. With a boom, he forcefully resisted the might of the heavens. Heaven and earth rumbled. The huge hand collapsed, and the wind and clouds rapidly scattered. However, at this moment, an azure-robed elder appeared in the sky. His corporeal realm cultivation base made it difficult for the younger generation's experts to breathe. Down below, Wild's body flashed with light, protecting the little girl and blocking the elder's pressure. To the side, Ning Chen calmly watched the battle without the slightest fluctuation in his expression. The law enforcer had appeared to enforce the law and punish the murderer in the city. He raised his hand and condensed yuan, slamming it down on the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man didn't dodge or evade. He faced the law enforcer head-on. Heaven and earth shook, and the battle reached a climax. The powerful black-clothed man was actually not at a disadvantage against a corporeal realm expert. "Ning Chen, didn't that senior say a few days ago that there weren't any rules on this road?" asked tugging on the clothes of the person next to her. "Rules are set by people. Perhaps the people who set the rules found it necessary to set more rules, or perhaps the law enforcers are just following their own judgment. In any case, absolute strength is the most important thing," said Ning Chen. "Oh." Er's attention was quickly drawn back to the battle in the sky. Can this person win? After watching for a while, Er asked again. No. Ning Chen shook his head. There's not even a 10% chance? Asked Er. Yes. Ning Chen nodded. There's no need to talk about the difference in cultivation base. A difference of a major realm is an absolute disadvantage that cannot be ignored. Furthermore, although this person's battle experience is not bad, it's far from enough to make up for that huge difference. The most important thing when fighting across realms is to restrict your opponent's movements. Under normal circumstances, you need someone skilled in speed to coordinate with you. If you don't have that, the best choice is to use a divine weapon to fight in close combat. If you still can't do that, then the difference in cultivation base will be insurmountable. Then can you beat that old man? Asked curiously. Ha! Ning Chen smiled, but didn't reply. Oh. That's not right. Last time in the Western Immortal World, didn't that extremely powerful senior defeat Mo Zhu and the Red One Realm Queen? Asked suddenly recalling that matter. Senior isn't on that list, said Ning Chen calmly. As the two of them spoke, the battle in the sky became even more intense. The difference in cultivation base gradually became apparent. The black-robed youth's spear-wielding hand began to bleed, drop by drop. Below, everyone was looking at the battle. Whether it was out of jealousy or something else, they all hoped that the enforcers would be able to kill this black-robed youth. Boom! Another world-shaking collision rang out. The azure-robed elder's palm had sent the black-robed youth flying, bringing forth a dazzling spray of blood. Final move. Ning Chen narrowed his eyes and spoke slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, a sudden change occurred. The black-robed youth's body began to shine brightly, piercing through the heavens and earth. A power that surpassed the mortal realm rapidly rose, and a shocking pressure caused the world to change color. The instant he used this move, the aura within Ning Chen's body shook, resonating with him. Heavenly Book. Ning Chen suppressed his aura in shock. What's wrong? Sensing the change in Ning Chen's mood, the man looked over and asked. This person has the aura of a heavenly book, so he can't die. I have to protect him, said Ning Chen. Hearing this, the man nodded lightly and said, Go. In the sky, the martial arts of the heavenly book appeared. The wind and thunder changed, and a terrifying aura swept through the 9 heavens. Seeing this, the old man in green raised his true essence and gathered the power from all directions. His strongest move appeared in the world. Just at this moment, the wind and clouds changed. Numerous swords appeared out of nowhere, crisscrossing and dazzling. An expert. The two people's expressions both changed, and they hastily retreated. However, the sudden sword had no beginning or end. They had already lost the initiative, and the sword flashed past, sending the black-robed youth flying. The space shook, and a red-robed youth appeared. He respectfully bowed to the elder and said, Senior Enforcer, we still don't know who was right and who was wrong in the previous battle. It won't be too late to pass judgment after we've figured out the reason. Otherwise, if we wrongly accuse a good person, wouldn't we have caused Senior's good intentions to backfire? Looking at the red-robed youth, the azure-robed elder's expression became serious. What a terrifying youth. If that sword had truly been used to kill, even he would have found it difficult to escape unscathed. Had the younger generation already grown to such a level? How was that possible? What does this person have to do with you? The azure-robed elder suppressed the shock in his heart and asked. The youth in front of him had obviously given him enough face, so he couldn't be too aggressive. He has something that was lost by my sect. I'm here on my master's orders to take it back, Ning Chen casually said. The azure-robed elder narrowed his eyes, then nodded and said, Since that's the case, I'll hand him over to you. Don't let him do evil. Junior thanks Senior Enforcer. Ning Chen respectfully bowed again and replied. I'm in Green Lotus City. If you pass by in the future, you can come and find me. After saying that, the azure-robed elder's figure dissipated and disappeared. After the enforcer left, the people below recovered from their shock. Looking at the red-robed youth walking down from the sky, they couldn't hide the shock on their faces. Who was this person? Even the enforcer had to give him some face. Brother, let's go. Ning Chen looked at the black-robed youth not far away and said. The black-robed youth's face was cold. He didn't say anything and followed. In the crowd, the 4 men and women's faces were extremely ugly. They wanted to seize the opportunity to attack, but they were afraid of the red-robed swordsman and didn't dare to act rashly. If the 4 of you want to seek justice or take revenge, I won't interfere. However, do everything within your capabilities. Revenge isn't urgent. That's all I have to say. See you in the future. Ning Chen said indifferently, then left with the 3 of them. Chapter 701. On the ancient starry sky path, Heaven's city floated up and down. Outside the city, the 2 of them were chatting. Not far away, Man and Yin were quietly waiting. Speak. What is it? Lian Yu looked at the young man before him. Ning Chen didn't beat around the bush and directly asked, where did your heavenly book come from? Heavenly book? Lian Yu frowned and asked, what heavenly book? Hearing the former's reply, Ning Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at the person in front of him silently. Lian Yu's expression turned serious. What's a heavenly book? Ning Chen withdrew his gaze and calmly said, heavenly book is just a general term. The martial technique you used in the battle just now came from a heavenly book. After hearing this, Lian Yu frowned again. A moment later, he opened his mouth and said, I accidentally obtained that move from a dangerous place. There is only one move, and the cultivation method is incomplete. I made up the missing part based on my own understanding. Lian Yu waved his hand and took out a jade slip. He indifferently said, I don't like to owe people favors. This technique is for you. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. Ning Chen received it and scanned it with his divine sense. He sternly said, can you tell me where you obtained this technique? All Heaven's Starfield, Immortal Burial Deadland. Lian Yu honestly replied. Ning Chen nodded. Let me remind you that those 4 people won't let this go. Hatred can make people go crazy. Thank you. Lian Yu responded, then turned around and left. After taking a few steps, Lian Yu's footsteps paused. He turned around and said indifferently, I'll also remind you that the Immortal Burial Deadland is filled with danger. Don't rashly enter. After saying that, Lian Yu didn't stay any longer and left. Seeing this, Yin ran over and asked, he's leaving just like that? Ning Chen took out a jade slip and handed it over. Reward. Yin took the jade slip and scanned it with her divine sense. She curled her lips and handed it back. I don't understand. This technique is temporarily missing a part. Once I've made up for it, I'll teach you, said Ning Chen gently. Not far away, Man walked over and asked, which one is it? I've already seen 9 of the 10 heavenly books. This technique is unprecedented. The answer is obvious, said Ning Chen. Divine heavenly book, said Man softly. And, unfortunately, it's just a fragment. Ning Chen nodded. Among the 10 scrolls of the heavenly tomes, life was the beginning, inaction was the end, and God was the most respected. It could be seen that the power of the divine scroll was one of the best even among the heavenly tomes. However, every heavenly tomes had at least 2 moves. In addition, there were also mental cultivation methods and moves that were compatible with other heavenly tomes. It was a pity that there was less than 1 move left in this heavenly tomes. The phoenix has an extreme young body. Can this scroll be cultivated? A man asked seriously. It's still unclear. Ning Chen shook his head and said, we can only see if it repels this body during cultivation. Is your main body still unable to sense it? Wild asked softly. Yes. Ning Qin nodded and said, I haven't sensed anything yet. Originally, this heavenly book was most suitable for the original body to cultivate. However, ever since the chaos in Heaven's sanctum was resolved, there had been no news of the original body. It was indeed a troublesome matter. At the same time, Green Lotus City, one of the many heavenly cities on the Starry Sky Road. In the depths of the ancient city, old man Qing Lian stood quietly in an ordinary mansion. He looked at the Starry Sky Road in the distance as light flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the void swirled and a figure in a silver-gray cloak walked out. His cold face was dignified and noble, making people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Old man Qing Lian's expression froze when he saw the person who came. He immediately bowed and said, Tower Master. No need to be so polite. The Dawn Moon Tower Master said calmly. May I know why the Tower Master is here? Old man Qing Lian was puzzled. I was passing by this place. It's just on the way. The Dawn Moon Brothel's master replied and continued, I heard that you fought with Ning Chen. Old man Qing Lian was startled, but he quickly reacted and said, the red-clothed young swordsman that the Tower Master is talking about? He did take one move, but it was over. How was it? The Dawn Moon Tower Master asked. Old man Qing Lian hesitated for a moment before telling the truth, Tower Master, forgive this old man for speaking bluntly, but this person is not suitable to stay on this path. He has exceeded the limit by too much. If he has not violated the rules, no one has the right to drive him out of this Starry Sky Road, the Dawn Moon Tower Master said calmly. Old man Qing Lian sighed softly and said, although that is so, the existence of such a person is too destructive of the balance. I have already suggested that the age limit be lowered to 100 years. Otherwise, according to the previous plan of 60 years, these youngsters will not be able to stop him, the Dawn Moon Tower Master said calmly. Who is this person? How can he exceed the younger generation by so much? Old man Qing Lian was puzzled. The ninth son of Mo Gate. At this point, the Dawn Moon Tower Master paused for a moment before continuing, according to my calculations, Master Mo's death was caused by this person. Old man Qing Lian was shocked. How could this be? Master Mo was already infinitely close to the true realm, or even an expert who had entered the true realm. How could he die at the hands of a youngster who had not yet entered the void realm? There is no need to doubt it. This matter is indeed true. The Dawn Moon Tower Master said calmly, aside from the fact that Master Mo was once heavily injured by a heaven speaker, this person was able to kill an expert comparable to the true realm. This is truly shocking. This is also the reason why I insist on lowering the age limit. Old man Qing Lian's expression changed again and again. After a long while, he said, Tower Master, the strongest experts of the younger generation are at most at the void realm. Even with the help of secret techniques, it is impossible for them to reach Master Mo's level. No one can stop this person's existence. It's fine. The Dawn Moon Tower Master shook her head and said, this person must have used many external items to be able to kill Master Mo. It is impossible for him to have such battle strength under normal circumstances. As long as those young experts do not force him into a corner, nothing will happen. Old man Qing Lian sighed and said, that's all we can do now. It's really hard to believe that a young man who has only cultivated for a few decades can possess such terrifying strength. Even those extremely talented young men can't be compared to him. The responsibilities they bear and the experiences they have grown up with are just different. The Dawn Moon Tower Master said indifferently, if the youngsters you speak of have to face us old monsters all day long and cannot win, then he and the people around him will die. I think that they will be able to grow faster. Of course, the prerequisite is that they are still alive and have not been driven mad by the pressure. Old man Qing Lian fell silent and did not say anything else. Remember, this person is not a bloodthirsty person. If no one takes the initiative to provoke him, he will not casually attack. If there are really blind people looking for trouble, then just kill them. There is no need for you to interfere. However, you must remember that once you discover that the two girls beside him are in any danger, you must immediately report back. We do not wish to see this road become a bloodbath, the Dawn Moon Tower Master said seriously. Yes. Old man Qing Lian suppressed the shock in his heart and bowed in response. 10 days later, at the ancient Starry Sky Road in Green Lotus City, at the intersection of the Red Luan, All Heaven, and Spirit Void Star Fields, Ning Chen brought and Ah Man along. Seeing more and more cultivators on the ancient Starry Sky Road, his eyes narrowed slightly. It seemed that the news of the ancient battlefield had already spread. The road ahead might not be easy. There was only one quota for opening the ancient battlefield and obtaining the time restriction and other rewards. This also meant that everyone on this road would be a potential opponent. Apart from this, it was very likely that many young experts would not be interested in those three treasures. Instead, they would want to take the opportunity to compete with the younger generation of the All Heaven Star Fields and verify their own Tao. On the side, was happily eating a tanghulu made from a string of cinnabar fruits. Wherever there were people, there would be merchants. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Ning Chen could only sigh with emotion. This was the first time he had seen something like this in his life. 3 cinnabar fruits and 10 immortal jades. It was frighteningly expensive. Only a glutton like would be willing to buy it. Do you want to eat it? Took another bite and placed the tanghulu in front of a certain person's mouth. Nope. Ning Chen helplessly shook his head. This time, he was truly unwilling to eat it. It was better to leave it all for this girl. Little mistress. Placed the tanghulu in front of Ah Man. Ah Man took a small bite and patted the little girl's head. Alright, I won't eat it. You can eat it. Broke into a smile and continued to eat happily. Looking at the helpless expression of the person beside him, the man smiled. Now you know how to feel heartache. Celestial jades were even more precious than cultivation techniques to a certain extent. Using one meant one less, especially now that the celestial realm was about to collapse. However, cinnabar fruits were spirit fruits that were beneficial to cultivation. Although it was a bit expensive, it was still worth it. Not long after, a pavilion appeared in front of them. The decorations were gorgeous and luxurious. It looked extremely extraordinary. Ning Chen thought for a moment and said, "Let's go in and take a look." Ah Man nodded and followed after him. Indifferently followed, looking left and right. As she ate, she was curious. "Young master, what do you want?" asked a pretty woman who came up to him. "Something to protect myself," replied Ning Chen. "Young master, please follow me," said the woman respectfully. Ning Chen nodded. Then, he led the two people beside him and followed. Didn't understand and pulled on the woman's sleeve. "Little mistress, why do you want to buy something to protect yourself?" "It's for you," said Ah Man softly. "I don't need it. I'm already very strong." Waved her fist. Ah Man smiled and didn't say anything. On the second floor, the woman brought the three of them over. In front of a counter made of inkstone, an old man was currently carving something. Powerful spiritual chi fluctuations were faintly discernible on the counter. It was extremely shocking. Ning Chen's gaze swept over the counter and directly ignored all the items on display. He looked at the wooden sculpture in the old man's hand and said, "I want this." "How much is it?" 4,000 immortal jades. No bargaining. The old man didn't even raise his head. When heard this, her little face shook. So expensive. Ah Man's eyes also flashed. It really wasn't cheap. However, this wooden sculpture was extraordinary. With it, would at least have some guarantee of safety. "I want it." Ning Chen didn't hesitate and directly agreed. Chapter 702. In the E-Pavilion, behind the inkstone counter, the old man was focused on carving the wooden sculpture in his hand. He never looked up. In front of him, Ning Chen stood quietly and waited patiently. He did not rush him. On the second floor, there were many customers coming and going. However, compared to the first floor, there were far fewer. Clearly, the price of the treasures on this floor was not something ordinary people could afford. Sizzle. Sizzle. Gradually, people stopped walking and looked at the wooden sculpture in the old man's hand. Their faces looked strange. Master. A young man dressed as a student looked at a young man dressed in luxurious clothes. The young man's eyes froze. He did not say anything. He just looked ahead quietly. Not far away, several young people in luxurious clothes also stopped in their tracks, a solemn look flashing in their eyes. The wooden sculpture was about to be completed. Many restrictive patterns appeared. Strange runes surrounded it. They slowly disappeared into the wooden sculpture. Let's go and take a look. The young man in luxurious clothes said. He then walked to the counter. When the student heard him, he quickly followed him. At the same time, a few young men not far away also walked forward. Shopkeeper, how much is this wooden sculpture? The young man in luxurious clothes asked. It's not for sale. The old man answered coldly. He threw the wooden sculpture to the young man in red and said, 3,000 celestial jades. Ning Chen took the wooden sculpture and waved his hand to give away the celestial jades. He calmly said, thank you. After that, Ning Chen gave the wooden sculpture to the little girl next to him. He softly said, take it and play with it. Don't let it leave your side. Took the wooden sculpture and looked at it. Her small face smiled like a blooming flower. It was dazzling. When the young men dressed in noble clothes saw this, they looked surprised. Such a precious treasure was being given to a little girl. Who was this young man? In front of the student, Qin Bai's expression also became serious. He was weighing the pros and cons. Let's go. Ning Chen did not care about their gazes. He walked down the stairs. Man held Er's hand and followed. Everyone watched as they left together. Go and find out who this person is, Qin Bai said. Yes. The student respectfully answered. Outside the E-Pavilion, the three of them walked out. Held the wooden carving and gestured around, looking very happy. The wooden carving was of a young girl. Looking closely, she was no more than 16 or 17 years old. It was so lifelike that every strand of her hair could be seen clearly. Ning Chen, where are we going? After walking for a while and seeing that there were fewer and fewer people, asked in confusion. To pay a visit to that senior law enforcer, Ning Chen replied. Are you really going? Wasn't too interested. One must be polite. Ning Chen patted the little girl's head and said. Pursed her lips. She didn't believe a single word. She looked at the woman beside her and asked coquettishly, Mistress, why did Ning Chen visit that enforcer? Man smiled and said softly, because doing so will save us a lot of trouble. Seeing the little girl's puzzled expression, Man patiently explained, some people have been following us. After we pay a visit to that senior law enforcer, if these people have any ideas, they will have to consider carefully. Oh. Only then did understand. She wrinkled her nose at a certain someone. What did he mean by having manners? That was a lie. Ning Chen smiled helplessly. Man was truly becoming smarter and smarter. In the depths of the ancient city, old man Qing Lian was looking at the lotus blooming in the pond in front of him. His face was as calm as water without any ripples. Had it finally come? Junior Ning Chen requests an audience with senior law enforcer. Just at this moment, a respectful voice rang out from outside the residence, breaking the silence. Come in. Old man Qing Lian said. Many thanks, Senior. A red-robed figure walked in. Behind him were two young women. They looked similar in age, but their temperaments were completely different. Seeing the two young women beside Ning Chen, old man Qing Lian couldn't conceal his emotions. That little girl was still all right. Although her talent wasn't bad, it couldn't be said to be shocking. However, the woman beside her was a bit terrifying. Her spirit heart was pure and flawless. She was a true peerless genius. For thousands of years, he had only heard of such a perfect martial art jade in legends. Senior Law Enforcer, Junior has disturbed you. Ning Chen walked forward and respectfully bowed. No need to be so polite. Did you encounter any trouble along the way? Asked old man Qing Lian. Ning Chen stood up and shook his head. He said, it was quite smooth. I passed by this city, so I came to visit you as promised. Old man Qing Lian nodded and said, Green Lotus City is one of the 49 sky cities along the way. I've been in charge of guarding this city for nearly 100 years. This time, the ancient battlefield has reappeared. Several star venerables and region masters hope that there will be someone in your generation who can open the ancient battlefield. Last time, when you protected that young man, you caused quite a stir. Be careful. Senior, thank you for your reminder. I'll keep it in mind. Ning Chen replied. Seeing the humble attitude of the young man in front of him, old man Qing Lian's expression softened a bit. He said, I know your strength is extraordinary, but the dangers you'll face on this road may be more than what you see now. In addition, some star venerables and region masters have begun to notice you. No matter what happens in the future, they don't want this road to be a dead end. Do you understand what I mean? If people don't offend me, I won't offend them, Ning Chen said. Hearing this, old man Qing Lian's eyes became serious. He said, it's not that the star venerables and region masters are forcing you, but your strength is not suitable for you to compete with these young people on this ancient road. The ancient battlefield is very important. I hope you can consider the overall situation and restrain yourself as much as possible. As I said, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. This is the biggest guarantee I can give. I can't give more than this, Ning Chen said seriously. Old man Qing Lian sighed softly and nodded. Of course, he didn't know whether it was a blessing or a curse to have such a variable who exceeded the limit. I heard that there will be a grand meeting organized by the young generation in 10 days in the city. At that time, several supreme experts of the young generation from the heavens, spirit void, and red one-star areas will meet for the first time. This is a chance. I hope you can stay. You don't have to make friends with these people, but at least meet them. Maybe you can avoid some unnecessary conflicts in the future, old man Qing Lian said seriously. Ning Chen was silent. After a while, he nodded. What the old man in front of him said probably represented the attitude of the star venerables and region masters behind him. It was just a grand meeting. There was no need to confront these old monsters directly. Old man Qing Lian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Ning Chen had agreed. In fact, this lad was not someone who didn't know the importance of things. However, those gods' favored sons from various vital stars might not be the same. At that time, he would accompany this lad as a law enforcer. He hoped to use this opportunity to make some arrogant disciples of the great sects more cautious and not provoke this terrifying young man. He had to admit that the task assigned to him by the building master was really troublesome. After they finished talking about the serious matter, they talked about some unimportant things. After an hour, a woman dressed like a maid came and took Ning Chen and the other two to a room to rest temporarily. After listening to them talking nonsense for a long time, Er's patience had been exhausted. She hurried to follow them. In the west room, in a small courtyard with mottled bamboo shadows, the maid left after making arrangements for the three of them. As soon as the maid left, lay on the bed and heaved a sigh of relief. She said, I'm so tired. Man went forward and pulled her up. She said softly, "It's time to practice swordsmanship. I'm so tired today. Can I practice tomorrow?" Ian said with a bitter expression. "No." A man rubbed the little girl's hair and replied softly. Ning Chen did not say anything. He just smiled. He could not control this lad. It was up to man. Soon, Ian, who had failed in her resistance, was taken out by man to practice swordsmanship. Before she left, she pitifully asked someone for advice. Unfortunately, she was ignored. At the same time, in Green Lotus City, the news of the three of them visiting the law enforcers quickly spread to several young apex experts and attracted a lot of attention. In a mansion that he had bought temporarily, Qin Bai was quietly drinking wine and waiting for the news he wanted. "Young master, I found it." A young man who looked like a page quickly walked over and said respectfully, "A few days ago, that person seemed to have protected a killing star from the All-Heaven Star Field from the Green Lotus law enforcers. At that time, many people saw it." "Oh." Qin Bai put down the wine cup in his hand and narrowed his eyes. "In that case, that person was related to the Green Lotus law enforcers." That was not strange. To be able to take out so many celestial jades at once, his identity was definitely not ordinary. It was very possible that he was an inner disciple of a top-notch sect. Similar scenes appeared all over Green Lotus City. The law enforcers rarely showed themselves on the starry sky ancient road. Now, someone had actually been received by the law enforcers. It was truly shocking. However, no one knew that the law enforcers had not received people who knew destiny because of their status or background. Instead, it was because of their strength that the star venerables and domain masters had no choice but to remind them and restrict them. In front of the lotus pond in the Green Lotus Mansion, light gathered and an illusory figure appeared. He looked at the old man before him and asked, "How is it?" "Tower Master," he agreed. Old man Qing Lian bowed and said. The illusory figure nodded and said, "When the time comes, go with him. Take the opportunity to teach those people a lesson. I have already done what I should do. If there are still people who are blind enough to provoke him, then don't bother. Living is luck, and death is fate." "Yes." Old man Qing Lian said respectfully. "Oh, that's right. An old man has taken a liking to the girl beside him called a man. He wants to take her as his disciple. Remind Ning Chen to be careful. Even if he doesn't agree, he shouldn't confront that old man. I will think of a way to mediate between them and try to resolve this peacefully." After he finished speaking, the illusory figure turned into specks of light and disappeared. Old man Qing Lian bowed and sent him off. A serious expression flashed through his aged eyes. That girl had indeed attracted the attention of those people. Chapter 703. 10 days later, to the east of Green Lotus City, at the prodigy's grand gathering, the beauty of the lotus pond reflected the bustling scene. The fragrance of the lotus flowers permeated the air, intoxicating everyone. During the banquet, 4 figures were particularly eye-catching. There were 3 men and 1 woman. Their powerful auras were faintly discernible. All of them had stepped into the treading celestial plane. In less than 100 years, he had stepped into the immortal treading realm. No matter what era he was in, he could be called a proud son of heaven, looking down on the younger generation. Among the 4 people, one was Luo Yang from the Red One Starfield. Another was Qin Bai from the Spirit Void Starfield, who had appeared in the E-Pavilion. As for the other 2, they were both from the All-Heaven Starfield. Their strength was unfathomable. The gathering of heaven's favorites made this grand event dazzling. Intentionally or unintentionally, the attention of many young experts was focused on the 4 of them, especially the only woman among the 4. Her fairy-like temperament attracted the attention of most people. Right when the grand event was at its most bustling, a black-clothed figure walked over with large strides from afar, and the baleful aura on his body was impossible to conceal. As soon as he appeared, it caused everyone to feel uncomfortable in their hearts. Lian Yu. When the black-clothed man appeared, the eyes of the two young experts from the All-Heaven Starfield narrowed. He had actually also come. Qingyuan, Shiyan, how have you been? Asked Lian Yu calmly. The man named Qing Yuan's expression darkened slightly. He snorted coldly and ignored him. Not far away from the man, Shiyan gently nodded in response. Lian Yu saw the reaction of the two, but did not care in the slightest. He walked to an empty seat at the side, picked up a wine cup, and quietly drank. Feeling the weird atmosphere, Qin Bai lifted the corners of his lips. It looked like the grudge between these people was not as simple as it seemed. Qin Bai put down the wine cup in his hand and said, I've heard that the zither of the All-Heaven Starfield's fairy Shiyan is unparalleled. Might we be fortunate enough to witness it? Just then, everyone shifted their gaze to the fairy-like woman. Their faces were full of anticipation. Seeing everyone's gazes, Shiyan gently nodded and said, I've embarrassed myself. The zither appeared, and the zither waves were boundless. It was mellow and pleasant to listen to. The grand yet gentle sound of the zither reverberated throughout the banquet. The lotus flowers swayed, echoing the celestial music. A zither without a sword. What a pity, Luo Yang said with a regretful expression. Leave the sword to me. Qin Bai stood up. He waved his hand. A glowing sword came out of its scabbard. Suddenly, the sword moved. A dragon came out of the sea. The beauty played the zither while the hero danced with the sword. Such a perfect match made people envious. When the sound of the zither and the sword dance reached their peak, the sword light suddenly paused, showing signs of stagnation. Qin Bai was shocked. Shi Yan stopped playing her instrument. Their chemistry was gone, so there was no need to continue. This aura, it's from a law enforcer. Everyone looked over and looked into the distance, their faces filled with shock. The space in front of them twisted, and a green figure appeared. His powerful aura shocked everyone present. When the law enforcers appeared, the shock on everyone's faces could not be concealed. Why would law enforcers appear here? Before everyone could recover from their shock, three figures walked over from not too far away. They were led by a red-robed figure. Their expression was calm and indifferent, without the slightest ripple of emotion. Behind Hong Yi, there were two young girls following behind her. They were equally stunning, and neither of them were inferior to Fairy Shi Yan, whom everyone admired. When the three of them arrived, everyone looked at each other. Other than shock, they were even more confused. Greetings, Azure Lotus Enforcer. The young experts stood up and said respectfully. No need to be so polite. I'm here to introduce you to a junior. After saying that, Elder Qing Lian looked at the red-robed young man and gestured for him to come over. Ning Chen had no choice but to step forward. It seemed that the old man had made up his mind to put a few layers of shackles on him. This is Ning Chen, Elder Qing Lian said seriously. He's a nephew of mine. He's only here to gain experience. Please take care of him in the future. After he said that, there was an uproar below. Everyone looked at each other. Wasn't this openly abusing his power for personal gain? Wasn't he telling everyone not to make things difficult for this person? I'm Ning Chen. Greetings to everyone. Ning Chen knew that the old man had put in a lot of effort, so he did not want to embarrass him. He cupped his hands and bowed to everyone to show his courtesy. For the sake of the law enforcers, the young experts present all bowed back and did not make things difficult for him. Ning Chen looked at the old man next to him and smiled. He did not say anything. Then, he led Ah Man and Qin Bai to a seat on the side. Law enforcer Qing Lian, please take a seat, Qin Bai said respectfully as he bowed. There is no need. If I stay here, I will spoil your mood. I have completed my mission, so I will take my leave. After that, Elder Qing Lian looked at the young man in red sitting at the table. He sent a message to him and then disappeared. He left the gathering. This old man, Ning Chen, shook his head helplessly. If this continued, he would soon become famous on the ancient road of the stars. Not far away, Luo Yang frowned. He did not understand what had just happened. Based on his understanding of the young swordsman's power, there was no need for him to do something so unnecessary. He had been able to kill 8 strong cultivators who were at the peak of the Supremes. That was enough to make a name for himself on the ancient road of the stars. Why did he have to bear such a dishonorable reputation? Qin Bai stood up and walked forward with a cup of wine. He looked at the young man in red and said, "Brother Ning, I am Qin Bai. This is the second time we have met. Let me give you a toast." "You are welcome." Ning Chen smiled and raised his cup. He drank it all in one gulp and showed the empty cup to the person in front of him. "How refreshing." Qin Bai laughed and drank all the wine in his cup. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he returned to his seat. One person started, and the rest followed. Some people raised their cups to show their friendliness. Ning Chen responded to them one by one. He was polite and courteous. He had completed his mission beautifully. After everyone else, Luo Yang also stood up and walked forward. He raised his cup and looked at the person in front of him. He asked seriously, "Why?" "No reason." They raised their cups and clinked them. Ning Chen smiled and said, "Everyone has their own ambitions. Now that I have a backer, it would be a waste not to use it." Luo Yang squinted his eyes. After a while, he looked away and walked back to his seat. He did not believe that this person was such a coward. After a short interlude, the atmosphere became strange. It was still lively, but everyone had their own thoughts. It was hard to tell what they were thinking. Not far away, Lian Yu drank cup after cup of wine. He sneered at everyone's behavior. He had personally taken that freak's sword. He could more or less guess what the Green Lotus law enforcer was thinking. Favoritism? That was probably the case. However, it was for everyone's sake. Otherwise, they would all be killed by this terrifyingly strong young man. On the other side of the seat, Qing Yuan frowned again. He drank the wine in his cup and walked out of the seat. Not far away, Shi Yan squinted her eyes and said softly, "Qing Yuan, don't be impulsive." "It's fine." Qing Yuan replied and walked to the opposite side without stopping. "Brother, how about a few moves?" Qing Yuan looked at the person in front of him and said in an unfriendly tone. Beside Ning Chen, who was eating happily, heard someone provoking her. She immediately raised her head. Finally, he was not here to toast. "I'm not good at martial arts." "Sorry." Ning Chen smiled and replied. Cough cough. As soon as he finished speaking, the little girl suddenly coughed violently. She choked on the water in her throat and her face turned red. Ah Man quickly patted the little girl's back and said softly, "Don't be so anxious. No one will snatch it from you." Hit the person who caused her to choke. It was all his fault. To be able to get law enforcers to accompany you here, brother's ability is not small. However, it's just a few moves. There's no need to be so afraid, said Qing Yuan aggressively. I'm really not good at martial arts. Why do you have to force me? There are many experts here. If you want to find someone to spar with, you can just choose someone else, said Ning Chen sincerely. Coward. Qing Yuan snorted coldly and walked away. Clang. At this moment, the sound of a sword rang out. Before they could react, the initial heart sword appeared. Before they could react, the girl who had been taking care of the little girl had already arrived in front of them. Apologize. Man looked at the person in front of her and said sternly. The light blue sword didn't have any killing intent. However, the bone-chilling coldness still made people tremble. The initial heart sword revealed one's true intentions. I don't have the habit of apologizing to a coward, said Qing Yuan coldly. Apologize, said Ah Man again. I can't do that, said Qing Yuan coldly. As soon as he said that, the initial heart sword moved. The sword's sharp edge moved with the waves. In an instant, a gust of wind rose and water rippled across the sky. Qing Yuan's expression changed. He flipped his palm and condensed yuan to block the incoming sword. It really is good people who are bullied. Ning Chen put down his wine cup and indifferently said. He was just about to get up when the little girl pulled him back. Little teacher's wife told me to keep an eye on you. Don't fight. These people aren't those old monsters. You should rest for a bit. Little teacher's wife can handle them, said Ning Chen narrowed his eyes. He was just about to stand up, but then he sat back down. Perhaps he really was nervous. The battle was extremely intense. The initial heart sword faced off against the peak experts of the younger generation. Light curled around the azure sword's edge. Each of the sword's moves suppressed the enemy. After exchanging several moves, Qing Yuan's expression became more and more grave. What a strange sword. Sitting down, Ning Chen held his wine cup, his gaze never leaving the battle. Although he believed in Ah Man's strength, battles were never won by the strong. Only the strong would win. The sword's edge cut through his clothes, bringing with it a trace of blood. The initial heart sword began to hum and shine brightly. Qing Yuan focused and dodged the sword. He condensed yuan in his palm and counterattacked. With a loud bang, the sword qi and palm force scattered in all directions. The remaining waves rushed toward the banquet table with astonishing power. Enough. Ning Chen waved his hand to disperse the shockwaves. Ah Man, come back. Ah Man's figure flickered and he returned to Ning Chen's side. Ning Chen looked at the man in front of him. I promised Senior Qing Lian that I wouldn't casually fight with others. But that's not a reason for you to be impudent. My patience has always been limited. There won't be a next time. Ah Man, let's go. With that, Ning Chen walked out of the banquet. At this moment, a sword light left its master's hand and streaked through the air. Chapter 704. At the genius gathering, the sword light flashed and the sound of blood dripping could be heard. It was so soft, but it was clearly heard by everyone present. The sword could not be seen clearly. When they came back to their senses, Qing Yuan's right shoulder was dyed red. It was a shocking scene. They did not see where the sword came from. Only the dripping red told them what had just happened. Sitting at the table, Qin Bai was shocked. He looked at the sword on the table that had been unsheathed without him knowing. His eyes were full of disbelief. How could it be? The sword flew back. Its sharpness was restrained. It was silent as if it had never been unsheathed. Not far away, Shi Yan was the first to come back to her senses. She stood up and looked at the three who were about to leave. She said, "Friends, it was a misunderstanding. Why don't we sit down and have another drink?" No need. People who walk different paths cannot work together. Ning Chen did not stop walking. After saying that, he walked away. Expert. Qing Yuan's eyes narrowed. He put away the contempt he had just now. One could not judge a book by its cover. This time, he was wrong. In Qing Lian Mansion, seeing the three return, Elder Qing Lian was startled. He said, "Is it over? Why did you come back so quickly?" "No. We were just in a hurry, so we came back first to say goodbye to you, Elder Qing Lian." Ning Chen replied with a smile. "Is it that urgent?" Old man Qing Lian sighed softly and continued, "Then I won't keep you any longer. Remember what I told you. Even if you don't agree, don't confront that person head-on. Someone will deal with it for you. Perhaps we can resolve this matter peacefully." I will remember, Elder Qing Lian said softly. Ning Chen replied lightly, and then he didn't say anything further. He bid farewell and left with the two of them. In an unknown void, in a palace, many illusory figures stood in the air. Everyone's aura was so powerful that it was shocking. It was beyond comprehension. Although they were just incarnations, they still caused the space in the palace to distort. Where are they? One of them asked. Hong Wan, All Heaven, and Spirit Void have just arrived at Green Lotus City. The Ziwei and Luojia Star Domains have just arrived at Emperor Return City. Another person spoke and replied. It seems that most of them have already set off. So far, the plan is going smoothly, a third person said. The opening of the ancient battlefield is not an easy matter. Tell the enforcers to be careful. This time, there must not be any accidents, said another person. I don't care about such matters. However, I want that little girl called a man by Mo Gates' ninth disciple's side. An indifferent voice rang out. Pure exquisite heart, an exceptional genius rarely seen in 1,000 years. Shenji really knows how to pick disciples, said a woman coldly. It's not up to you to tell me who I choose as my disciple, the figure called Divine Armament said coldly. The two of you should stop arguing. Pavilion Master Dawn Moon, you've always been in charge of Mo Gates' ninth disciple. We don't wish to see this unstable factor erupt at any time. The first person to speak sternly interrupted their argument. Amidst the crowd, the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master who'd remained silent until now smiled indifferently and said, I told you since the beginning that this kid isn't someone you can bully as you please. I'll say it again, no one is allowed to touch a man, otherwise, even I can't guarantee anything. A youngster who hasn't even stepped into the immortal realm is regarded so highly by the Pavilion Master. Isn't that a bit too much? The woman frowned. When have I ever looked highly upon a person? I'm just stating a fact. I'm sure everyone knows about Mo Gates' abilities. He's definitely not as simple as he appears on the surface. This time, regardless of whether he's truly dead or not, it's an undeniable fact that he's fallen into the hands of his disciple, said the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master indifferently. Mo Gates' master. Divine Armament narrowed his eyes. He really is a very difficult person to see through. It seems that I'll have to personally take a trip to the ancient path. I'll say it again. If anyone touches that girl or a man, I can't guarantee anything, said the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master coldly. Divine Armament, the ancient battlefield is extremely important. You can take a disciple at any time. There's no need to rush, said the eighth person. I know what I'm doing. Everyone, I still have matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first. As soon as he finished speaking, the illusory figure in the air dissipated and disappeared from the main hall. How troublesome. Dawn Moon Pavilion's master, does that girl with the pure heart already have a master? Why are you so sure that Mo Gates' ninth son will definitely oppose this? The person who taught her the sword is Mo Gates' ninth son's martial guide. He's the swordsman who appeared in the Western immortal world. He's the person that Mo Gates' ninth son respects the most. So it's impossible for her to change her master, said the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master. Then it'll be difficult, said someone. Kill her, said the 10th person. The atmosphere stiffened. Perhaps this was something that everyone had thought of, but this was the first time someone had brought it up. No one said anything. Everyone looked at the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master, waiting for an answer. Manager of the Spirit Void Starfield, have you already forgotten the lesson of the Nether Hall? Do you think you can stop that swordsman? Sneered the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master. The first person's expression sank. He's the swordsman that appeared in the Western immortal world? Otherwise, do you think there would be a second person who would challenge the Nether Hall for no reason? Let me give you a word of advice. Although that swordsman doesn't seem to want to interfere with the growth of his junior, if someone really wants to kill him, I think the Nether Hall's example is the best lesson, said the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master. The manager of the Spirit Void Starfield fell silent, weighing the pros and cons. He knew better than anyone how strong Mo Luotian was. Other than Xiaobai, no one else had been able to exchange more than 100 blows with him in the past 100 years. According to what you've said, this child is truly troublesome, said the woman. The Dawn Moon Pavilion's master smiled coldly. It's not that he's troublesome, but that we're the ones looking for trouble with him. Even a rabbit will bite when cornered, let alone a wild wolf. Everyone, that's all I have to say. Take care. I'll take my leave first. With that, the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master's figure gradually disappeared. On the second floor of the Dawn Moon restaurant, the bright room opened. The Dawn Moon Pavilion's master walked out and headed downstairs. Hong Wan, come with me. Yes. On the high platform, the woman who was playing the zither respectfully replied. House master, are you going out again? The shopkeeper hurried forward and asked. Yes. The Dawn Moon Pavilion's master nodded. Send all the guests away. Before I return, the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master will not receive any guests. The manager had no choice but to agree. He was already used to the strange request of his master. When others did business, they were afraid that they would not receive any guests. Yet, they had to drive their guests away again and again. Not long after, the two of them left the restaurant and headed out of Jinxi City. Master, did something happen to young Master Ning and the others? Hong Wan asked with a worried expression. Yes and no. The Dawn Moon Tower's master shook her head and said, it doesn't matter if something happens to that Ning Chen or if he's injured. What I'm worried about is that the two girls by his side will be implicated. That's the most terrifying thing. A crazy phoenix and a heavenly demon will destroy the entire ancient Star Road. Why do good people always have bad karma? Young Master Ning and Yin have never offended anyone, but they are always in trouble, Hong Wan said sadly. Because the tree may wish for peace, but the wind will not stop. The Dawn Moon Pavilion's master looked into the distance and said indifferently, there are gains and losses. What he wants is something that has never existed since ancient times. Thus, he will have to endure hardships that no one has ever endured before. On the ancient Starry Sky Road, the three of them suddenly stopped in their tracks. Ning Chen looked at the space that was constantly distorting and narrowed his eyes. Since you're here, show yourself. The ninth son of Mahist sect, Ha. As soon as he finished speaking, thunder rumbled in the sky. From the cracked space, an abnormally terrifying figure walked out. He was stronger than any opponent he had faced in the past, causing people to feel fear from the depths of their hearts. Junior Ning Chen greets Senior Shinji. Ning Chen bowed and greeted politely. Since you know my identity, you should also know why I'm here. Tell me your decision, said Shinji coldly. I'm sorry, but Man already has a master and can't take Senior as her master, said Ning Chen calmly. Oh. A light flashed through Shinji's eyes. He looked at the girl beside Ning Chen and asked, is his words your answer? I'll listen to him, said Man softly. Ha. Shinji smiled indifferently. His expression turned cold. What a pity. As soon as he finished speaking, a sword glowing with purple light descended from the sky. In an instant, a divine aura spread out, and the surrounding floating islands were reduced to ashes. Retreat. Ning Chen's expression turned serious as he spoke. Man nodded and pulled Yin, out of the battle. This is the purple firmament sword. I heard you were good with swords, so I'll use my sword to show you what it means by there's always someone better than you. Shinji's figure descended. The moment he held the sword, his entire body emitted a dazzling purple light. He suppressed his cultivation and condensed it to the peak of the emptiness realm. He had the dignity of a supreme expert of the star field. Ning Chen waved his hand and his astral soul appeared. In an instant, a red light soared into the sky. With the help of the 4 divisions, he returned to his ancestral state. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind, dazzling to the eye. His blood sword shone against the supreme expert of the star field. Please. With a single word, Shinji instantly moved. His astral soul illuminated the sky and his sword pierced through the sky. The purple firmament sword responded. With a clang, sword light flashed in all directions. It was a battle of sword skills and experience. Amidst the dazzling light, there was no mercy. In the distance, a man's expression turned serious. This was a true realm expert. He was different from all the opponents she had encountered before. In the battle, the two swords clashed fiercely. The sword light cut through the floating islands one after another. The terrifying sword light destroyed everything in sight. It was beyond imagination. It was an unyielding resistance. It was the coldness of a supreme expert of the star field teaching a junior a lesson. With a loud bang, the two swords clashed once again. Shinji's sword aura changed. He took strange steps and his body turned into a flowing shadow. The two swords no longer clashed head-on. Excellent sword skills. Unfortunately, your foundation is too weak. Shinji said coldly. He did not dodge and directly grabbed the sword in Shinji's hand. Chapter 705. On the ancient road of the star field, on the rugged floating islands, knowing destiny and Shinji clashed with their swords. Shinji's palm shook the sky, not fearing the sharpness of the divine weapon. He forcefully grabbed the sword in Ning Cheng's hand. Changing hands. The moment the palm and sword clashed, Ning Cheng's astral soul changed direction. A cold light broke through the air, slashing towards Shinji's hand. Wind and thunder appeared on Shinji's palm, blocking the sword light. Then, he pushed his palm forward, slapping towards Ning Cheng's chest. White rainbow. When the palm arrived, red dress moved instantly, dodging the palm energy. White rainbow appeared, and the soft sword wrapped around Ning Cheng's arm. One sword trapped the enemy, while the other slashed down. It was cold and murderous, breaking the sky and mountains. A strange look flashed in Shinji's eyes. He waved the purple cloud in his hand to meet the heaven-breaking sword. With a loud boom, heaven and earth were in chaos. Boundless raging currents surged. The floating island under the two suddenly shattered. Broken rocks flew everywhere, filling the sky. Sword, returning to truth. In an instant, the wind blew. The sword light shone brightly, condensing into one and piercing through the air. 9 stars disk, setting the sky with fire. Shinji's sword spun. Above the starry sky, 9 stars shook. Lightning connected, and the divine might shook the world. When the swords collided, the aftershock shook the sky. Red dress took half a step back, but the sword did not stop. She passed by in an instant. The two swords exchanged hands, and the astral soul split the sky. The attack was like a flood. Each sword was faster than the previous, and each sword was heavier than the previous. It was a shocking attack. The moment she held the sword, she did not show any mercy. A lifetime of tasting blood, no regrets, only the sword, life and death. On the floating island, red dress moved faster and faster. The sword in her hand also moved faster and faster. The unyielding phoenix, facing the strongest of the star field, was still unwilling to bow down. As long as the sword was in her hand, she would continue on this path. Why was she so persistent? After letting go, the road ahead would not be so difficult. Why was the sword tip red? If they had not met back then, the fate of fate would not have left a scar in the depths of her heart. Why? Why? The sound of the sword seemed to be asking, from the 5 tribulations to the 3 disasters, from the prime to the celestial treading realm, from the leader of a sect to the leader of a region, the endless tribulations in this life, when would she reach the end? His red robes fluttered, and his figure did not stop for even a moment. The determination in his eyes was just like before, never wavering for even a moment. The sonorous sound of the sword was accompanied by the rustling of the wind. The sword intent of the going without regrets sword grew stronger and stronger. In the starry sky, it was as bright as the stars in the sky. A glint flashed across Shinji's eyes when he sensed the sword will from the former's body growing stronger and stronger. He waved his sword to shake off the battle. Immediately, he flipped his palm and slashed across the blade of his sword. The purple light around his body rose to the extreme and a torrent of undercurrents spread out. Ning Chen's expression didn't change. He took a step forward, and the sword flow around him soared into the sky. It was magnificent, and it lit up the starry sky. Nirvana. The sword light coiled and transformed. The shocking sword cut through the starry sky and arrived before Shinji in an instant. The sword that had surpassed the limits of the plane was so dazzling. Divine Armament's eyes shone with a strange light. Purple clouds went up to meet the peerless sword head-on. The next moment, there was an earth-shattering tremor. The sword light in the sky dissipated and the strongest in a purple battle suit walked out. His aura was as vast as the starry sky. Shinji waved his hand and put away his sword. He looked at the red-robed young man in front of him with admiration. The waning moon brothel's evaluation was indeed true. Apart from the old monsters like them, this young man was the strongest in the world. Senior, thank you for letting me win. Ning Chen put away his sword and said respectfully. I didn't let you win. If you can force me to use the power that surpasses the emptiness realm, then you win, Shinji said calmly. Senior Shinji, I'm not even a tenth of your power. If you hadn't suppressed your cultivation, I wouldn't have had the slightest chance of winning. Ning Chen's attitude was still respectful. Ninth disciple of the Mahist sect, it's not luck that you've been able to live until today, Shinji said indifferently. There was no sarcasm in his tone. Being able to live was a skill. Even a peerless genius would be useless if he couldn't grow up. Therefore, being able to live was a real skill. Senior, thank you for your praise. Ning Chen replied. Unfortunately, your talent is too lacking. You won't be able to learn my skills. After saying this, Shinji looked at the two people walking over from the distance. He said, think about it carefully. Being able to learn martial arts from me is something that others can't even dream of. That little girl's talent is rarely seen in 1,000 years. If she comes with me, it won't be a delusion for her to reach the 4th level in the future. Ning Chen turned around and looked at the two of them. He fell silent. Your fate is filled with calamities. If she follows you, she will only suffer together with you. I can tell you seriously that you've overdrawn too much of your life's potential to reach your current level. Although talent isn't absolute, to a certain extent, it already determines a person's upper limit. Her future is limitless. As for you, you're about to reach your end, Shinji said calmly. Hearing this, Ning Chen became even more silent. He didn't say anything. Let her go. Shinji looked at the young man in front of him and said seriously. If it's really because of the matter of inheriting my master, I can take a step back. It's fine if I don't accept the title of master. I have no children in my life, so I'll take this girl as my adopted daughter and let her receive all my inheritance, Shinji said seriously. At this moment, in the distant sky, the Dawn Moon Tower Master looked at the two people on the floating island and sighed softly. It seemed that she didn't need to intervene. Tower Master, is what that senior said true? Hong Wan was shocked. Yes. The Dawn Moon Tower Master nodded and sighed. Ning Chen's talent wasn't suitable to learn martial arts in the first place. He's about to reach his limit now. But Hong Wan was startled and said anxiously. This is the will of heaven. The Dawn Moon Tower Master raised her hand and interrupted her. Do you know why he still can't break through to the Xiantian realm? This is the reason. Treading into immortality is different from the Xiantian and Hotian realms. If one isn't chosen by the heavens, no matter how hard they work, it's hard to advance. But that Miss Man is different. A pure exquisite heart is hard to find in 1,000 years. As long as she's willing to cultivate diligently, there will be a day when everyone will look up to her, including Ning Chen. Hong Wan's face filled with sorrow. Why is the heavens always so unfair to him? Wrong. The Dawn Moon Tower Master shook her head and said, it's not that it's unfair. It's because he's not suitable to walk this path. With his intelligence and wisdom, it's easy for him to be conferred the title of Marquis in the human world. But he chose to walk the path of cultivation. To be honest, he's already done very well, better than expected. But, the Dawn Moon Tower Master didn't finish the rest of her words. As a supreme, his true strength was comparable to that of a treading immortal. Such a terrifying young man was the only one in the human world. He originally thought that this child could break through the will of heaven, but now it seemed that hope was getting slimmer and slimmer. If he didn't enter the treading immortal realm, then he and that Miss Man would be people of two different worlds sooner or later. In fact, by keeping Man by his side, he had already restricted her growth to a large extent. Although it was cruel, it was the truth. In the distance, on a floating island, Man walked over with Yin-er. Looking at the silent Ning Chen, a trace of inexplicable uneasiness arose in her heart. Ning Chen turned around and forced a smile. His voice was somewhat hoarse as he said, Man, I've lost. Man was startled and tears instantly flowed out of her eyes. Yin-er didn't understand, but she also felt that the atmosphere wasn't right. She held the girl's hand tightly and refused to let go. 100 years. Shen Ji sighed. Man, come with me. Whether or not you become my disciple isn't important. In just 100 years, there won't be any place you can't go. I'm not going. Man shook her head. Tears flowed out of her eyes. If you stay, how far can you go with him? 10 years, 100 years, or even 500 years. If you stay by his side, he'll have to be careful at all times. He'll be heavily restricted, and your growth will also be affected by him. It'll be a waste of time. Your paths have always been different. If you forcefully travel together, you'll only restrict each other. It won't be good for either of you, said Shinji. Man's body trembled and she unconsciously reached out to grab the person's hand. However, when she touched his hand, she felt an indescribable coldness. It was a coldness that was constantly trembling. So he was also in pain. Little teacher's wife. Yin-er tightly held onto Man's arm, tears welling up in her eyes. Man raised her hand to wipe off the tears on the little girl's face, and then she revealed a warm smile on her beautiful face. She said, Yin-er, take good care of your master from today onward. I won't. Hearing this, Yin-er's hands clenched even tighter, refusing to let go no matter what. In 100 years, will you wait for me? Man looked at the person in front of her with a teary smile. 100 years later, what was life or death? It was difficult to make such a promise. Ning Chen's hand trembled. He wanted to reply, but he couldn't say another word. If you don't reply, I'll take it as you agreeing. Man smiled sweetly. She finally chose to let go of his hand. Ning Chen reached out to grab it. However, the only thing that fell into his hand was a teardrop. It was like a pearl, sparkling and translucent. Mo Gates' 9th disciple, you've made me have a whole new level of respect for you. Shinji looked at the red-robed young man on the floating island, and a look of respect flashed across his eyes. Letting go was easier said than done. Perhaps 100 years later, they really would be people from two different worlds. One would fall into the dust, while the other would stand in the sky. However, such a person would perhaps be a precious memory for man. The void gradually closed, and the figure that could no longer be seen completely disappeared. In the distance, the waning moon tower's master who witnessed this scene sighed in her heart. She said softly, it was difficult to meet and difficult to part. Mo Gates' 9th disciple, this is the first time I hope that my judgment is wrong. The path of cultivation was difficult. Who would be willing to give up the little warmth left by their side? Only they could deeply understand this loneliness. This person made the most correct choice, but it was also the cruelest choice to himself. A moment later, the void swirled. The waning moon tower's master left with Hung Wan and disappeared. Ning Chen pulled the person beside her. Her teary eyes were filled with worry. She knew clearly that the departure of her mistress was definitely a big blow to Ning Chen. I'm fine. Ning Chen forced a smile. He patted her head and said, let's go. After speaking, Ning Chen didn't say anything else and walked forward with her. The two of them gradually went further away. However, for the first time, the red-robed figure didn't stand so straight. It turned out that even the strong-willed knowing destiny state would feel tired and painful one day. Chapter 706. On the ancient starry sky path, the 49 heavenly cities rose and fell. 1,000 geniuses walked out of their life stars and stepped onto the immortal treading road that had existed since ancient times. It was unknown where the ancient battlefield was, but it spanned millions of miles. It was boundless and immeasurable. 1,000 geniuses competed to become the only one. A glorious era had begun. The first round was the cruelty of the victor. In the all-heaven starfield's immortal graveyard, two people who had left the ancient starry sky path walked over. The person leading them was wearing blood-red clothes. Don't leave my side after we enter, said Ning Chen softly. Okay. Nodded, tightly grabbing his clothes. The next moment, the two of them entered the forbidden land. Gray light lingered around them, enveloping them. When the two of them entered the forbidden land, the heavenly geniuses' competition on the ancient starry sky path had already reached its climax. There were monstrous geniuses from the large sects who walked over the corpses of others. Fairy Shi Yan displayed her world-shaking ability for the first time. With a single song, she was unrivaled. At the same time, the white-clothed Luo Yang revealed his ability. He defeated 7 immortal treading experts by himself, shaking the starry sky. On the ancient starry sky path, the peak experts of the younger generation all began to reveal their abilities. Many previously unknown youths suddenly appeared, shocking the world. In this glorious era, 1,000 geniuses competed against each other. One after another, the peak experts revealed their astonishing strength, making the older generation feel pressured. In an unknown region, in a majestic palace, one figure after another appeared. The existences that stood at the apex of the starfield had gathered once more. The plan is going smoothly. The people that everyone thought highly of have already revealed their abilities. Presumably, the candidate will appear among them, said one person. I've heard that there's a youth called Yan Yuntian with astonishing strength. What's his origin? Asked another person. He's from my Z-Way starfield. He's the current master of the 7 Kills Palace. He's someone with great luck, and his future is limitless, said the leader of the Z-Way starfield. Oh. Master of 7 Kills. Then the other 3 palace masters should also be here? Asked Shinji. I'm not sure. I've only heard that he came to the ancient starry sky path, replied the leader of the Z-Way starfield. Greed, 7 murders, army destroyer. These 3 palace masters are indeed worth looking forward to. Right, is there any news about Imo Gate's 9th son? Asked a woman. No. Ever since he left Green Lotus City, it seems that no one has seen him again, answered the All-Heaven Starfield's leader. Strange, Waning Moon Tower Master, you have no news either. The woman asked again. He has already left the ancient starry sky path, the Dawn Moon Brothel Master said calmly. Leave? Why? The woman was puzzled. I'm not sure. Haven't you all been hoping for him to leave? The Dawn Moon Tower's master said indifferently. Forget it. Since he's already left, let's not bother about him anymore. Other than Yan Yuntian, are there any other young experts worth paying attention to? Asked the person who spoke first. Yes. The person in charge of the Z-Way Star Zone nodded and said, a few youngsters that we've never heard of have appeared. Their cultivation levels aren't extraordinary, and they're basically all in the consummate level. However, their battle prowess is quite astonishing. Even treading immortals were defeated. When everyone heard this, they frowned slightly. Why was there another young expert who could go against the flow and slay immortals? How many of them? Exactly how strong are they? Asked the woman. So far, 3 have appeared. Although the strength they've displayed so far is not as frightening as Mo Gate's 9th son, it is definitely enough to match the other young experts, said the person in charge of the Z-Way Star Zone. It's truly strange. Why would so many unexpected young experts appear? Dawn Moon Tower's master, your heaven expansion technique is unparalleled in the world. Do you know where those people came from? Asked the All Heaven Starfield's leader. The Dawn Moon Tower's master shook her head and said, I don't. We've waited for 1,000 years. Now that the ancient battlefield has appeared with great difficulty, we absolutely cannot allow any mishaps to happen. Everyone, remember, you must not be careless. Enough, return to your work, reminded the person who spoke first. Amen, everyone nodded. After a short moment, they disappeared and left in succession. Shinji. Before leaving, the Dawn Moon Tower's master looked to the figure not far away and said, is that lady of man doing well? Hearing that, light flashed through Shinji's eyes. He nodded and said, everything is fine. Don't worry, Tower Master. Since I've taken her away, I will definitely nurture her with all my might. It's not that I'm being overly suspicious. Shinji, regardless of the situation, nothing must happen to that little girl. Otherwise, who knows what the 9th son of Mo Gate, who has sunk into madness, will do. According to what I know, the immortal slaying sword from the Eastern Immortal Realm is very possibly in his hands. Perhaps that is the greatest reason for Master Mo's death, said the Dawn Moon Tower's master. Immortal slaying sword. Shinji narrowed his eyes and said, in that case, 3 of the 4 immortal swords have already appeared. Mn the Dawn Moon Tower's master nodded and said, when the 4 great immortal realms collapsed, the 4 immortal swords all disappeared. Now that 3 of the 4 immortal swords have appeared, the last immortal sword will likely appear soon. I just don't know if the last immortal sword will be as damaged as the other 3, said Shinji. Who can guess the will of heaven and earth? Unfortunately, that heaven speaker has already fallen on the heavenly speech peak. Otherwise, he should know a thing or two, sighed the Dawn Moon Tower's master. Heavenly speech. A regretful expression appeared on Shinji's face. He didn't say anything else and disappeared from the hall. The Dawn Moon Tower's master lightly shook her head and also left. Time passed day after day on the starry sky path. In the blink of an eye, half a year had already passed. On the ancient paths, outstanding geniuses would appear from time to time and their names would shake the starry sky. Gradually, everyone forgot about the magnificence of that person's sword at Green Lotus City's Heavenly Genius Banquet, except for Qing Yuan. In a simple and vast heavenly city, Qing Yuan looked at the heavenly pillar that reached into the starry sky. A trace of emotion flashed through his eyes. Originally, that person's name should also be on it. Let's go. That person might have already left, said Shi Yan as she walked forward. I don't understand. His appearance and departure were all strange. Back then, the enforcers of Green Lotus appeared with him. Now it seems that there's definitely something we don't know about, said Qing Yuan. Back then, you were the one who disliked him the most. Now, you're still the one who's sighing for him. Qing Yuan, I can't understand you more and more, said Shi Yan seriously. I only admire experts, not trash who rely on the protection of their ancestors. That person's sword is worthy of respect, said Qing Yuan calmly. Shi Yan was silent for a moment before she said, there's news. Right now, several people are looking for him. One is the Z-Wei Starfield's Yan Yuntian, the other is the Hong Wuan Starfield's Princess Hong Wuan. As for the others, their identities are unknown. Oh. A strange light flashed through Qing Yuan's eyes. Why are they looking for him? It doesn't seem like a good thing. It's more likely that they're looking for revenge, said Shi Yan. Revenge? Qing Yuan narrowed his eyes. Let them be. Let's go. Let's continue. After saying that, Qing Yuan didn't say anything else and just walked forward. Seeking revenge? That also required staying alive. He didn't know how strong Yan Yuntian and Princess Hong Wuan were, but he knew that the red-robed swordsman was terrifyingly strong. In the heavenly mist starfield, a starfield adjacent to the Z-Wei starfield, there was an ancient city in front of a starfield. A black-robed, white-haired devil cultivator was quietly standing there, looking at the dazzling name carved on the heavenly pillar. Yan Yuntian. Beside the white-haired devil cultivator, a gentle and beautiful woman's eyes flashed. She asked, "What are you planning to do?" "Find him and kill him." The white-haired devil cultivator coldly said. "I haven't heard any news about Ning Chen in a long time. Did he withdraw?" Luofei asked, puzzled. "Impossible." Xia Zi shook his head and indifferently said, "One of the 3 rewards for opening the ancient battlefield is the time restriction. As long as he doesn't die, it's impossible for him to give it up." "Did something happen to him?" Luofei's expression sank, a bit worried. "I'm not sure." Xia Zi looked into the distance and said, "Last time, he risked his life to save you. This time, it's our turn to repay him. Let's go." Luofei nodded and stepped forward to follow. As the two were on their way, in the starry sky far away, Yan Yuntian, who was wearing a rainbow-colored divine armor, was riding a heavenly divine war chariot. Suddenly, his body shook and his eyes sank. In front of him, a man in a black and white cloak was sitting on a huge rock. The snow sword in his hand was facing the wind and frost alone. The swordsman's face was beautiful to the point of being devilish. He blocked the way with a single sword and killed the 7 Kills Palace Lord. "Who are you?" Yan Yuntian asked. "Passerby." Mu Qiansheng walked down from the huge rock and calmly said, "Come, let's not talk nonsense. I still need to hurry after finishing my business." The moment he said that, the snow sword glowed. Before he could react, the sword realm sealed 100 miles. The sword was like a brush and ink, instantly forming mountains and rivers. A heavenly waterfall hung on the mountain like an inverted white light. Yan Yuntian had never seen such a sword before. He flipped his palm to meet it head-on, but an unbearable force came and his feet slid several meters away. Courting death. Yan Yuntian's face sank. He waved his hand and a divine halberd appeared. A whirlwind broke through the waves, and the mountains and rivers in front of him collapsed. Hard horn, that kid was right. Mu Qiansheng's figure flashed by, the sword tip was brilliant. The entire waterfall fell, and the raging waves drowned the mountains and rivers' sword realm. When Yan Yuntian saw this, he took a step forward and his halberd broke through the sky, going against the waterfall. With a loud explosion, the mountain collapsed and the entire mountain and river sword realm collapsed. Sword chi and halberd light spread in all directions, cutting apart the world. Ugh! Blood splashed out as he was forced back several steps. Mu Qiansheng crashed into a huge rock and vomited a mouthful of blood. "With this kind of strength, you dare to block me? You overestimate yourself." Mu Qiansheng coldly snorted and waved his halberd. "Sorry, I lied to you." At this moment, the originally heavily injured Mu Qiansheng grinned and moved 30 meters away. There was a violent tremor, and the boulder collapsed. A terrifying arrow shot toward him, piercing through his body. Ugh! Yan Yuntian groaned. Before he died, he made his most instinctive reaction. He took a step forward and flew into the heavenly divine war chariot. Mu Qianshang's eyes narrowed. He wanted to chase, but it was too late. What a pity. What's there to pity? That brat Ning Chen already said that this person has many treasures on him. How could he die so easily? Luo Xingqian walked over. That arrow of yours missed too much. Wouldn't it have been fine if it had pierced through his head? Mu Qianshang looked at the newcomer with dissatisfaction. Luo Xingqian looked at the former for a moment before walking away. Actually, I wanted to give you an arrow. Chapter 707. In the immortal graveyard, a chilly wind howled. Countless white bones were everywhere, making one's hair stand on end. Birds flew past and fell from the sky in less than a few breaths, unable to spread their wings. In the chilly wind, a red-clothed figure walked over, followed by a pretty girl. Her beautiful eyes flashed with curiosity and nervousness from time to time. The spirited girl had already grown into a slender and elegant woman. However, in this scary place, she still couldn't help but pull on the person beside her to calm her down. Ning Chen released his divine sense, guarding against any danger that might come at any time. He had inquired about the legends of the immortal graveyard for a long time before entering, so he more or less had some understanding. This was a forbidden land for life, similar to the demonic we'll see in the machine realm. Not many people who entered could walk out alive. He wasn't someone who liked to gamble, but he had no choice. What Shin Ji said wasn't a lie. Ever since he reached the Great Perfection realm, he clearly felt that his cultivation had stagnated. Even though he had obtained part of Qi Huan, Lulua, and Xiang Yuan's cultivation, he still couldn't break through the Xiantian limit. Now, the opponents he faced were getting stronger and stronger. If he didn't enter the immortal treading realm, it would be difficult for him to move forward. The divine scroll might be an opportunity. Among the 10 heavenly tomes, the gods were the most respected. The scroll's power was self-evident. If he could borrow the power of the divine scroll, it might help him break through the barrier before the immortal treading realm. It wasn't definite, but it was his only way now. If there was hope, it was worth a try. Clang! Clang! Deep into the immortal graveyard, the space in front of them suddenly twisted. A chilly wind blew, blowing up dust and sand. Er's body quivered, and she pulled on the person beside her tightly. But in front of them, tens of thousands of soldiers appeared. They were covered in iron armor, and their footsteps were neat and uniform, shocking the soul. Ning Chen pulled the girl behind him, and his eyes looked forward, a trace of seriousness flashing in them. It was soldiers again. Once or twice was a coincidence, but more than 3 times was worth thinking about. In ancient times, the underworld had an army of soldiers, but the underworld had been destroyed. Where did these soldiers come from? The soldiers passed by, and soon disappeared into the darkness. No one knew where they came from, and where they went. Are they ghosts? Stuck her head out, and asked in fear. No. Ning Chen shook his head, and said softly, let's go. Those things are ominous. It's best not to come into contact with them. Nodded obediently. The two of them continued to move forward. The terrain of the impasse gradually rose. Clearly, the depths of the immortal burial impasse were not flat plains. After crossing the mountains and rivers, a huge valley appeared. It was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. On the mountain, black trees were faintly discernible. They were filled with a deathly aura, causing people to tremble in fear. Gua gua. Suddenly, Ning Chen heard the calling of the black crows. There were signs of living creatures in the dead land, which made Ning Chen's face even more solemn. Vermilion fruit. Passing through the black trees, saw a red fruit growing on a spiritual tree. She cried out in surprise and extended her hand to pluck it. Seeing this, Ning Chen immediately pulled the little girl back and said, "You can't touch her." Finishing his words, Ning Chen took out a small piece of silver and waved his hand to insert it into the red fruit. The silver that was embedded in the fruit quickly decayed, turning into black liquid and dripping onto the ground. Er's eyes widened. How vicious. It really is the vermilion fruit. I've even eaten it before, said in confusion. It grew in a different environment, so it was corroded by qi. Ning Chen looked at the vermilion fruits not far away and explained. Oh. Responded with some lingering fear. Fortunately, Ning Chen had reminded her, otherwise, she would have been poisoned to death. Let's go pick some fruits. Ning Chen said as he walked towards the spirit tree at the side. Ah! Before could react, she was pulled away by Ning Chen. Isn't it poisonous? Why are you picking it? To give it to someone. Ning Chen calmly replied. In front of the spiritual tree, blood-red vermilion fruits were hanging upside down. They looked extremely tempting. If one didn't open them, it would be hard for anyone to tell that these beautiful fruits were actually extremely poisonous. Ning Chen took out a green cauldron and threw all the fruits inside before sealing them. Watched from the side. Her previously good appetite had completely disappeared. With her understanding of Ning Chen, someone else was about to be unlucky. After putting away all the vermilion fruits, Ning Chen looked down at the valley and said, "Let's go. Let's continue on our way." The path down the mountain was rugged and difficult to walk. Following beside Ning Chen, Er's fear gradually lessened. While walking, she curiously looked left and right. She had heard of the forbidden land of life when she was very young. Grandpa Swordmaster had said that this forbidden land formed by heaven and earth was different from the outside world. Some things had changed over the years and were already different from the past. Caw caw. The cawing of the black crows rang out once more. Not far away, Ning Chen brought and quickly rushed in the direction of the cawing. Someone arrived, and the black crows scattered in all directions. On the ground, one could barely make out the original appearance of the corpse. It was a monster that looked like a tiger, but was not a tiger, and looked like a leopard, but was not a leopard. It had fangs and scales, and looked extremely ugly. What is this? Pinched her nose and asked. A monster, Ning Chen casually replied. I also know it's a monster. What kind of monster is it? I don't know. Ning Chen straightforwardly replied. Paused, unable to say anything. Ning Chen's divine sense swept over the surroundings and he frowned slightly. The existence of a living creature wasn't good news at all. This place is too strange. We have to leave quickly. Ning Chen reminded. Then, he pulled the little girl beside him and jumped down into the valley. A whistling wind filled their ears. Suddenly, a huge black figure rushed over from the distance, instantly charging at the two of them. Ah, a monster! Hastily pointed. I see it. Ning Chen took a step forward and grabbed the black figure's head, then threw it down. After several breaths, a huge explosion rang out. Sand and dust filled the air, rising dozens of meters high. Ning Chen brought down the valley at top speed. At the bottom of the gloomy valley, huge ancient trees stood tall. The black figure smashed one of them, and black blood dyed the ground. It was still a huge bird with a strange appearance. It had sword-like teeth on its back. In the next moment, a shocking scene occurred. The heavily injured bird's wounds healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it flapped its wings and flew into the sky. Ning Chen narrowed his eyes. What was going on? Roar! A deafening rumble rang out from an unknown place. The entire ground shook, and the huge bird that had just flown collapsed. Blood sprinkled down like rain. Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. He waved his hand to disperse the shockwave and looked into the depths of the valley. Without any hesitation, a red light flashed and rushed forward. At the same time, a cold wind whistled on the ancient starry sky path. Queen Hong Wuan, who was dressed in a white dress, suddenly felt a killing intent coming at her without any warning. Her expression froze. In front of her, the sound of footsteps could be heard. A white-clothed swordsman walked over with a calm expression. "Sorry, your path has come to an end." Jian Er looked at the woman in front of him and said calmly. "Who are you?" Queen Hong Wuan's expression sank. She did not remember when she had formed a grudge with such a swordsman. "The person who will kill you." Jian Er responded. His right hand shone, and an ancient broken sword flew out. The moment the sword appeared, his figure moved. With a loud bang, his palm energy struck the sword's edge. The sword light surged. The white-clothed man followed closely behind. He held the sword and condensed his energy. His sword intent passed through the barrier of true essence and forced the person in front of him back. Queen Hong Wuan took 2 steps back. Her eyes were serious. What a powerful swordsman! True essence gathered, and a red mist filled the air, covering the sky. The martial arts of the Red Luan royal family appeared in the world again. Jian Er coldly snorted. His sword passed through a gap, and a glaring sword light shone. The sound of the sword was ear-piercing. The cold and murderous sword instantly arrived in front of her without any mercy. The path of life was difficult. Perhaps the world would spit on it, but in unknown places, there would still be friends who would go through life and death with them. Without asking for anything in return, they would block the path with a single sword. The flames of war rose on the ancient road. Sword light crisscrossed. Within the red mist, the white-clothed man's sword was like flowing water. His moves were simple and perfect, leaving no openings. After exchanging several moves, it was difficult for her to gain the upper hand. Queen Hong Wuan's expression sank. Who exactly was this person? She had never heard of him before. Distracted in battle. You are quite confident. With a piercing sound, the sword light dyed red. Jian Er condensed his energy and slammed his palm into the former's left shoulder. "Eh!" An almost undetectable groan sounded. Queen Hong Wuan took several steps back and staggered. The red mist dispersed, and the white-clothed man flashed past. The broken sword continued its attack, and the cold killing intent became even colder. After being suppressed in one move, the situation quickly changed. Queen Hong Wuan blocked the sword and was hit. Her dress was dyed red. Red dust reflects blood. Unwilling to lose just like that, Queen Hong Wuan condensed her blood energy and catalyzed the true energy in her dantian. Immediately, a bloody mist filled the sky and drowned out the battle. Secret technique? Useless thing. Jian Er's expression did not change. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of her. Sword intent gathered around him, and a dazzling light shone. Sword to the extreme, returning to the origin. Fast, accurate, concentrated. In the past, when Mu Bai taught him the sword, there were 3 swords in Desolate City. There was also a life-knowing expert who had always been entangled with Desolate City. The returning to the origin sword cut through the bloody mist and penetrated the woman's chest. Blood spurted out, and the scene was bleak. A pool of blood splashed out. Queen Hong Wuan's mouth dripped with blood. Vast energy gathered in her palm, and she counterattacked with a palm strike towards the former. Jian Er's eyes narrowed. He withdrew his sword and retreated, avoiding the former's palm strike. Eh! After vomiting another mouthful of blood, Queen Hong Wuan did not dare to fight anymore. She took a step forward and retreated quickly. You can't leave. Jian Er's figure flashed. With a slash of his sword, the sword light broke through the air. The sword light slashed apart the blood mist that permeated the air. However, Queen Hong Wuan's figure rapidly dissipated into nothingness, disappearing from the world. Nameless swordsman, today's grudge will be repaid many times over. When the last words were spoken, the bloody mist also disappeared without a trace. Only the white-clothed man stood there, as cold as before. Jian-er waved his hand, and the broken sword was sheathed. He did not stay any longer and turned around to leave. This woman had many secret techniques. It seemed that the life-knowing expert had made many enemies over the years. He was truly a genius. It was too late to regret making friends. A cold wind blew past, and dust filled the sky. The white-clothed man gradually disappeared on the ancient road. Chapter 708. In the immortal graveyard, under a canyon, heaven and earth shook. An extremely powerful pressure suddenly appeared, and with a roar, the surrounding creatures all exploded. Red Robe dashed out, and with extreme speed, he rushed towards the source of the roar. Angry roars rang out, as if they were enraged. Expanse after expanse of earth collapsed amidst the angry roars. Mountain rocks fell from the sky. Hong Yi flashed, dodging the rain of rocks. He spun around, increasing his speed. Roar! The world-shaking roar rang out once more, and the sound waves howled. The pressure was enough to destroy heaven and earth, destroying 10,000 celestial phenomena. Star Spirit! With a shout, the Star Spirit appeared. Hong Yi brandished his sword, and 100-meter-long storm broke through the air, slashing apart the sound waves. An instant later, the red light rushed into the depths of the canyon. In the dusky world, it was difficult to see 10 meters. Ning Chen condensed his origin energy, and a divine sun soared into the sky, shining in the dark night. White bones piled up into a mountain. It was glaring and terrifying. Yin-er subconsciously trembled, and the hand holding onto Ning Chen's arm tightened. Ning Chen, this place is so scary. Yin-er was a bit scared. Don't worry, I'm here. Ning Chen softly comforted her. His divine sense swept over the surroundings, and he walked forward. Swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, black figures rushed out from the darkness. There were thousands of them, and a cold wind whistled through the world. Ghost spirits. Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. He stepped forward, and the star spirit phoenix flame in his hand flourished. Sword light flashed, and the yang flames burned the Yin spirits. Ah! Mournful cries rang out. The phoenix flame set the plains ablaze, and the 100 spirits instantly vanished into thin air. Suddenly, a violent tremor resounded through the darkness. A ghost general covered in Yin Qi appeared. He raised his hand to block Ning Chen's sword. Oh! Ning Chen's eyes flashed. He condensed his origin energy, and phoenix flame filled the sky, protecting the little girl beside him. His sword whistled like thunder, and every move was fast. The ghost general used his body to block Ning Chen's sword, and the sound of metal clashing echoed through the world. The ghost general that was hard to injure with blades and swords, his moves were ruthless. His body had no vitality, and every move he made seemed to be based on instinct. He killed endlessly, and the Yellow Springs accepted his fate. After exchanging more than 10 moves, Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. He stepped forward and waved his left hand. Blue frost appeared and the sword pierced into the ground, freezing everything in its path. As the frost spread, the ghost general's movements immediately slowed down. Frost gathered, and the scene turned white. Heavenly Dragon Shock. In that instant, an azure dragon appeared on the Star Soul Sword. With a single slash, the dragon soared through the mountains and rivers. With a loud rumble, the heavenly dragon broke through the city. The frozen infernal ghost generals were instantly shattered and turned into ashes. Go! When the ghost general disappeared, Ning Chen took a step forward and instantly brought the little girl away from the battle, continuing to rush forward. A quarter of an hour later, a glimmer of light finally appeared in the dusky world. It was as dazzling as the first glimmer of dawn that was about to end in the dark night. Stepping into the light, the darkness faded away. The scene of birds chirping and the fragrance of flowers was mesmerizing. There was an earth-shattering groan of pain. The sky and the earth sank. The light collapsed and disappeared along with the red clothes. On the ancient space road, Sky City floated. In front of the seventh sky pillar, Qin waved his sword and carved his name. He then left. Right at this moment, a brilliant brilliance flickered in the distance as an extremely charming and beautiful figure walked over with large strides. She wore pink clothes, had fine black hair that hung down to her waist, and her excessively charming and gorgeous appearance carried a trace of a strange smile that was slightly icy cold and slightly charming, causing her appearance to be completely different from her appearance and be difficult to distinguish. The morning sun shone on the beautiful face of a Buddha. Buddha Mountain's King Ai Ran appeared on the ancient space road. In front of the sky pillar, King Ai Ran stopped. She looked at the name carved on the pillar. Her seductive face flashed with a strange smile. She said, "So, you are Qin Bai." Qin Bai squinted his eyes. Who was this woman? She had a very strange presence. A young elite from the Spirit Void Galaxy. What a shame. King Ai Ran smiled and said, "I heard that he came to this road. I told him to protect me. Tell me, if I kill you all and take the 3 treasures, will he come and find me?" Crazy. When Qin Bai heard that, his face froze. He waved his hand and a sword appeared. King Ai Ran raised her hand to block the sword. She waved her left hand. There was a flash of light. On the sky pillar behind her, 4 words appeared. When Qin Bai saw that, his face turned even colder. His sword became even fiercer. Buddhas should not kill. Unfortunately, I am Ai Ran. King Ai Ran. Ai Ran whispered. Her vital essence rose. The Buddha will behind her turned from gold to red. The Buddha lady turned into a demon. Her eyes were blood red. Buddha and demon in the same body. It was the most extreme opposition. The biggest change in Buddha Mountain for 1,000 years was terrifying again. The blood-red eyes opened, and the blood waves roared. The demonic power soared into the sky and covered the sun. With the addition of the demonic aura, Ai Ran's body disappeared. She took a step forward. Her hand turned into the sharpest weapon in the world. There was a loud vibration. Metal and stone clashed. A strand of black hair fell in front of Qin Bai. Red blood dripped down and dyed his clothes red. The attack was effective. King Ai Ran's killer move was even stronger than before. Her pair of white hands were like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. Qin Bai waved his sword to block the killer move. His aura was pushed to the limit. His sword light flashed as he fought against the Buddhist Shura lady. The battle between the two had reached its climax. The sword tip and the 5 fingers kept clashing. The shockwaves spread everywhere. The sky and earth shook. Demonic 6 dust, lust confuses the sky. After a long battle, Ai Ran was impatient. She formed a seal. The surrounding demonic aura was shaking. Her hands were glowing. Her fingers shook the sword. The demonic aura spread everywhere. The blood-red light was blinding. King Ai Ran had turned into a demon. The Buddha used demonic techniques. The supreme demonic power was driving people crazy. The shocking battle went beyond the limit. In front of the sky pillar, the ground kept shaking. The sky pillar that reached into the clouds was showing signs of collapsing. Qin Bai's expression froze. He blocked the demonic attack with his sword. Then, he took a step forward and jumped up. 8 desolation smoke, 1 sword end. The sword of termination appeared for the first time. The sword tip swung, and smoke spread everywhere. In the smoke, a sword light broke out. Its powerful aura shook the sky and earth. When the sword was used, the sky and earth could not withstand its power. Large areas of the void collapsed. The destructive sword strike terrified even the gods and ghosts. The sword light fell. King Ai Ran's expression did not change. The demonic aura around her rose to the extreme. Bloody waves spread out. Demonic six dust, fan ghost destruction. Mo Yen had shaken the sword edge. There was a moment of silence, and then there was a great terror that could destroy heaven and earth. Heaven's city shook, and the power that could topple mountains and overturn seas instantly destroyed hundreds of miles of land in front of them. The sky fell and the earth caved in, as if the end of the world had arrived again. In the endless waves of dust, a figure flew out. His whole body was dyed red. He had been defeated by half a move. The blood splattered and dyed the dust red. He smashed into the city wall and fell down powerlessly. With a clang, the sword tip fell from the sky and stabbed into the ground. It kept shaking. Master! At that moment, a young man in a scholar's outfit rushed over from afar. When he saw the figure that fell from the city wall, he was shocked. Seeing the young man, King Ai Ran withdrew the demonic aura around her. She returned to her Buddha form and did not attack again. She turned around and left. At the same time, in front of the ninth sky pillar, the battle had also come to an end. A woman in light yellow waved her hand and blocked two young strong cultivators. The Emperor's celestial scripture appeared again. Purple Chi flourished and sent the two flying. Don't follow me again. Otherwise, you won't be so lucky next time. Qi Yanxia said in a cold voice and immediately left. In an unknown place, the sky pillar stood. The green moth sword was trembling. The fourth crown prince of the Mizar dynasty in purple and red clothes put away his sword and left. Behind him, there were many people in red. In a different place, at a different time, the same scene occurred. The geniuses competed, eagles spread their wings, and soared through the vast sky. In the void, a palace floated up and down. Figures appeared in the palace. Their expressions all became much more serious. I believe you all already know why I've called everyone here, said the person standing in the middle. Yes. The dozen or so figures nodded. Shinji, what do you think? Asked the person in the middle. Perhaps they all came from the same place, said Shinji. Oh. What do you mean? Asked another person. None of us have seen those unfamiliar experts before. The techniques they use are also unprecedented. Although strange, they don't seem to be unorthodox. Perhaps a great sect or secret realm that we don't know about has appeared, said Shinji. That doesn't seem to be the case. If they're from the same sect, then even if the techniques they use are different, there should still be similarities. However, the techniques these people use are clearly different. The differences are enormous, said the All Heaven Starfield's leader. That makes sense. The Luojia Starfield's leader nodded. He looked to the other figure and said, House Master, what do you think? According to my guess, they might have a very deep relationship with Mo Gate's ninth disciple, said the Dawn Moon House's master. Why? Asked the Luojia Starfield's leader. Have you all noticed that those people who have grievances with Mo Gate's ninth disciple have all been killed by those people, said the Dawn Moon House's master. Hearing that, the crowd was startled. After a short moment, their expressions sank. Thinking about it carefully, that was indeed the case. The Seven Kills Palace Master and Princess Hong Wan had been searching for Mo Gate's ninth disciple the entire time. Yet, they were both seriously injured and their whereabouts were unknown. Perhaps, I know something. At this moment, the person in charge of the Ziwei segmentum said. Oh. The crowd looked over, silently waiting for an explanation. Yen Yuntian came from our Ziwei Starfield's heavenly mansion planet. Back then, I saw a life star colliding with the heavenly mansion planet. When I checked again in recent days, I discovered that the star had unexpectedly disappeared. The heavenly mansion planet is also safe and sound. Above the heavenly mansion planet, there is only one corporeal expert, Chao Tianxi. It is impossible for her to move that life star by herself. The Ziwei Starfield's leader paused for a moment before continuing. Yan Yuntian is from the Heavenly Mansion planet. As for Mo Gate's ninth disciple, he has been far away in the Hongwuan Starfield. Before the ancient starry sky path opens, it is practically impossible for them to have formed a grudge. If those unknown experts came from the same place as Mo Gate's ninth disciple, then the only explanation is that they came from not too far from the Heavenly Mansion planet. In fact, the disappearance of the life star that collided with the Heavenly Mansion planet might very well be related to them. Hearing that, the crowd's eyes narrowed. That made sense. If that was truly the case, then it went without saying where those people came from. Chapter 709. Time passed. Flowers bloomed and withered. How many years had passed? The immortal burial grounds valley fell into silence again. Just like before, the flowers did not smell and the birds did not sing. The light had disappeared for more than 2 years, and no one had walked out. In 2 years, the younger generation had walked a quarter of the ancient path and experienced hundreds of battles. The 9 kings had appeared, and they were invincible. In a glorious era, the 9 kings were comparable to the ancient sages, and they swept through all their opponents. Their names shook the starry sky. At the same time that the 9 kings appeared, more and more people left the ancient path and withdrew from the competition between the peerless geniuses. In the 3rd year, one of the 9 kings fell, and a new king took his place. The 9 kings' power was unshakable. In the immortal burial ground, 3 years had passed. Finally, there was movement in the quiet valley. The mountain rumbled, and sword light rushed out like a waterfall. In an instant, the entire immortal burial ground came to life. Black crows flew and covered the sky. They're finally out. You lied to me. Didn't you say it would be soon? In the depths of the immortal burial ground, the little girl's voice sounded, full of dissatisfaction. 3 years, it's very fast. In the dazzling brilliance, Hong Yi waved her sword. With a bang, the surrounding space was shaken. In an instant, the brilliance dissipated, and the world dimmed, returning to its original state. In 3 years, the little girl did not change much. Only her waist-length hair was a little longer, and it hung behind her back, gently fluttering in the wind. It's been 3 years. Maybe that ancient battlefield has already opened. Yin Er pouted. No, that path is very long. They're at most halfway there. Ning Qin said softly, looking forward. He did not expect that there would be a complete underworld divine restriction here. If he did not have a certain understanding of this restriction, he might not have been able to come out in his life. Underworld, immortal execution, and time were known as the world's 3 great divine restrictions. They were born in heaven and earth, and their power was world-shaking. However, a complete divine restriction could not be set up by humans. It was the domain of gods. From ancient times until now, there had never been a human who could set up a complete time restriction. Inferring from this, there must be an existence that surpassed the limits of the mortal world in the immortal burial ground. Thinking of this, Ning Chen's eyes flashed, and he walked forward. Seeing this, Yin hurriedly ran to catch up. She reached out and grabbed the former's sleeve, saying, "There won't really be a monster this time, right?" "I'm afraid there really are monsters this time." Ning Chen's tone was calm, but his divine sense was on high alert. If he was going to face an existence that was beyond the limits of the human world, then he had to be very careful. Yin, Hold on to me tightly. If there's any danger, we'll run. All right. As they spoke, the two of them had already reached the deepest part of the mountain. The rustling sound of the subway cables entered their ears and locked their hearts. Ning Qin stopped and narrowed his eyes as he looked at the cliff in front of him. Yin, step back a little. Oh. Hearing this, Yin retreated more than 10 steps, leaving space for the person in front of her. Ning Chen waved his right hand. Phoenix flames soared as his astral soul manifested. A resplendent blood-red light flashed as a sword slashed through the air, piercing into the precipice. With a loud bang, the mountain began to rumble and tremble. Numerous cracks appeared on its surface before it collapsed with a loud bang. Ning Chen waved his hand to disperse the dust. He looked forward, not in a hurry to enter. But in front of him, iron chains crisscrossed across the mountain. Among the countless iron chains, a figure could be vaguely seen. His hair was dyed in blood, and he looked exceptionally miserable. On the iron chains, countless runes flashed with black lightning. Over the countless years, they had continuously consumed the sinner's cultivation. The light in Ning Chen's eyes grew brighter and brighter, but he did not take a step forward. Although he could not sense the person's cultivation, he could feel the terrifying lightning on the chains. Once he touched it, the consequences would be unpredictable. Within the heavy iron chains, the sinner raised his head and looked at the red-robed young man outside the mountain. His purple-black eyes emitted a dazzling light. "Human," the man said hoarsely. Ning Chen's eyes narrowed, but he did not speak. What a strange feeling. This was not the aura of a human. "Save me, and I can agree to any of your conditions." The man's face was filled with exhaustion. "Sorry, I can't save you with my strength." Ning Chen looked at the lightning on the chains and shook his head. "Why? If you can pass the forbidden land of the underworld, you should be able to cut these chains." The man suppressed his confusion and asked. "I have seen the forbidden land of the underworld before, so I have some understanding of it. That's why I can walk out. However, this does not mean that I have the ability to break your seal," Ning Chen said calmly. "What's your cultivation right now?" The man's eyes flashed with pain as the lightning entered his body. He asked weakly. "Peak Xiantian realm," Ning Chen said honestly. Hearing this, the man was startled at first, then disappointment appeared on his face. "Too weak." "Senior, why are you locked here?" Ning Chen asked. "I made a mistake." A trace of struggle and pain flashed across the man's face. He raised his head and asked, "Do you have a master? Can you ask your master to save me?" Ning Chen was silent. After a while, he said, "I don't have a master. Moreover, this seal cannot be broken by ordinary people. Even if a true realm expert came, they would be powerless. Are there no fourth realm experts in the current world?" The man was confused. "No." Ning Chen shook his head and said, "At least, as far as I know, I have never heard of one." The man's eyes dimmed. After a while, he sighed softly and said, "Leave. Don't come back. Otherwise, your life might be in danger." Ning Chen's eyes narrowed and said, "Senior, can I ask you something?" "Speak." The man's eyes became more and more tired. "Senior, do you know the whereabouts of the God's Scroll?" Ning Chen asked seriously. "The God's Scroll?" The man's eyes flashed with confusion and thought. Not long after, a trace of pain and madness flashed across his face. He said urgently, "Leave quickly." Ning Chen's expression changed. An indescribable sense of danger rose from the bottom of his heart. Without saying anything else, he quickly retreated with Yin behind him. "The God's Scroll is," his last words were filled with pain and struggle. Before he could finish speaking, a terrifying roar that made people tremble rang out. Instantly, the entire mountain collapsed and sank down hundreds of feet. 3,000 feet away, a red light flashed and Ning Chen appeared with the girl. As soon as he landed, he spat out a mouthful of blood. He could not withstand the power of the sound wave. "How are you?" Yin asked anxiously. "I'm fine." Ning Chen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the collapsed mountain behind him. A trace of fear flashed across his eyes. That was close. Fortunately, he retreated quickly. Otherwise, it would not be as simple as spitting out a mouthful of blood. Who was that just now? Asked. I'm not sure. There was too little time. I didn't have time to ask too much, Ningqian said seriously. Looked at the surroundings that were gradually recovering. She pouted and said, we came for nothing this time. We didn't find anything and were trapped for 3 years for nothing. We didn't come for nothing. Ning Chen's expression turned serious. He looked at the mountain that had recovered and said, let's go. It's time to go back. Ah. Heard this and was stunned. She quickly followed and said, we're leaving now. Aren't we going to continue searching? We found it, Ning Chen replied. Where is it? Why didn't I see it? Looked left and right. It's not here, Ning Chen said calmly. Then where is it? It's very far from here. We're going to snatch it. The two of them gradually disappeared into the night. Their red clothes fluttered in the wind. They did not look back even once. Senior, if Junior is fortunate enough to step into the fourth realm one day, I will definitely return to repay today's kindness. In the night wind, the promise echoed through the valley. It was calm and simple, but it was firm and unquestionable. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound of the chains swaying could be heard. They were blocked by the mountain that was gradually recovering and could no longer be heard. In the 5 regions of the inner realm, rays of light shone in the world. The Netherworld King's boundary was broken, and the suppressed laws of heaven and earth were restored. The few people who had been at the peak of the great circle of perfection for hundreds of years had finally taken the most important step. Congratulations, Master. In the Heavenly Music Pavilion, Wu Qingying respectfully bowed. The Heavenly Music Pavilion's master walked out and said, Qingying, the ancient starry sky path has been open for a long time. You should also set off. Yes. Wu Qingying bowed again. She waved her hand and put away the Yoya zither beside her. Then she left. In the homeland of Western Buddha, on Heavenly Buddha Mountain, a figure of light descended from the sky. The pavilion masters of Buddha Mountain bowed respectfully and said, Welcome, Master of Light. Among the crowd, there was a young monk with delicate features who looked to be in his 20s. However, his pure Buddhist cultivation surpassed that of any of the Buddhist pavilion masters. Arhat, you can go, said the Master of Light calmly. As you wish. The Arhat accepted the order. His feet fell, and golden light shone around him, drowning his body. At the peak of Western Jade Mountain, on the wall of repentance not far from the 7 Buddha Heavenly Pass, Buddhist fire rose. In front of the wall of repentance, Shi Piaoshu, who had been facing the wall for more than 10 years, looked much more haggard. However, the determination in her eyes did not change at all. In the flames, a jade-green divine spear floated up and down. It burned with Buddhist fire and was refined by the clear sky lotus breath. It worked day and night for 10 years. Outside the wall of repentance, Bai Lingling walked over. She looked at Shi Piaoshu, who was getting weaker day by day. A look of pity flashed through her eyes. Third junior sister, why do you have to do this? Asked Bai Lingling. Shi Piaoshu did not look back. She focused on forging the divine weapon in the flames. Traces of the clear sky lotus breath entered the divine weapon from her body. Her hair had lost all its luster. It's almost done. Where's little junior sister? Has she woken up? Asked Shi Piaoshu tiredly. Maybe in the next few days, replied Bai Lingling softly. That's good. Senior sister, if little junior sister wakes up, ask her to come here. It'll be the last thing I can do for her as her senior sister, said Shi Piaoshu calmly. Okay. Bai Lingling nodded. She looked at the divine weapon in the flames with pity. Then, she sighed softly and turned to leave. In the 7 Buddha Heavenly Pass, endless Buddhist fire spread. In the flames, the aura of the woman who had been sleeping for more than 10 years became even more stable. It was as if she was in a deep sleep. She was calm and peaceful. The void swirled, and the West Jade Master walked out. She looked at the woman in the flames, and her eyes flashed. Qing Ning, you've made me see you in a different light. This unyielding will to live. Was it because of him? Since you're worried, you should wake up soon. Chapter 710. The ancient starry sky path was filled with the flames of war. Kings contended for supremacy. The most glorious era was undeniably on display. Spears danced in the desolate wilderness. Incomparably valiant figures were difficult to approach. One of the 9 kings, the war king Qifeng, had a peerless demeanor. 3 treading immortals and 5 peak supremes teamed up to fight kings. The flames of war soared. The war king was fighting 1 against 8, but he wasn't at a disadvantage at all. His divine spear shook the world. The battle reached its climax. The 8 experts were all dyed red. The encirclement gradually showed signs of defeat. Ancient martial heavenly glory. An opportunity appeared. The war king's ancient spear soared. Its dazzling brilliance carried the momentum of breaking through the heavens as it charged towards the treading immortals at the front. Ugh! With a painful groan, the divine spear pierced through his body, bringing with it a large amount of blood. In the blink of an eye, the ancient spear spun back, and 3 figures were once again sent flying. In this sudden turn of events, 1 of the 8 had died and 3 were injured. The encirclement had failed. Blood dyed the ground red. You're all so weak that I can't interest you. The war king waved his ancient spear, scattering the blood. He looked at the people in front of him with undisguised mockery. Before he even finished speaking, dust flew into the air. In the distance, a red-clothed figure walked over. His face was delicate and pretty, and he was calm without the slightest ripple. Beside the red-clothed figure was a young girl. She curiously glanced at the battle, but soon lost interest. They passed by each other without saying a single word. However, the connection between powerful individuals made the war king's eyes widen. He was the first to reveal a serious expression. An expert. Mr. Ning, save me. At this moment, a heavily injured man among the 8 recognized the newcomer. He became excited and shouted loudly. When Ning Chen heard this, he stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at the person who spoke. You know me. Back in Green Lotus City, when Mr. and the Green Lotus enforcers appeared at the banquet, we were all present. That's why we met once, the man hurriedly said. So it's you. The war king's gaze froze. He had also heard that this was the only person on the starry sky path who had been personally introduced by the enforcers. The legends were all different. Some said that this person had only benefited from his ancestors, while others said that this person was a young expert with unfathomable strength. In the past, he wasn't sure. But now that he had seen the Venerated One in person, he knew that the Venerated One was a true expert. Give me a reason. Ning Chen's expression was still calm, and he remained unmoved. The man's expression became more and more anxious as he said, the Battle King wantonly slaughtered innocent people. We wanted to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens, but we were unexpectedly ambushed by this person. I ask Brother Ning to lend us a hand. Oh. Ning Chen nodded and looked at the Battle King. He said calmly, Battle King. Sorry to disturb you. Please go ahead. After saying that, Ning Chen didn't say anything else. He turned around and left with the little girl beside him. A strange look flashed through the War King's eyes. What a unique young man. Damn it. The man's expression instantly changed, revealing a ferocious expression. With a flip of his right hand, streaks of dark and gloomy light streaked through the air, attacking the Battle King who was momentarily distracted. Zhan Wang came back to his senses. His face darkened as he waved his spear to block the hidden weapon. However, a streak of light brushed past his shoulder and headed straight for the 2 people who had just walked away. Sensed something and her expression changed. She wanted to dodge, but it was too late. The man who threw the hidden weapon also had a change in expression. He originally wanted to ambush the Battle King, but he didn't expect to provoke another expert. In that instant of crisis, the Battle King took a step forward and waved his spear, wanting to block the hidden weapon. However, he was still a step too late. "Thanks." As he spoke, the red-clothed figure who had his back facing the crowd flashed and blocked the hidden weapon in front of the little girl. In that instant, phoenix flames rose and his astral soul appeared. The figure who didn't have time to see clearly flashed past and returned in an instant. Blood spurted into the air and dyed his eyes red. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. His astral soul disappeared. Ning Chen patted the little girl who was still in shock and said softly, "Let's go." "Oh. Okay." Came back to her senses and hurriedly followed him. Not long after the two left, the massacre started again behind them. Miserable cries shook the sky. Er's heart jumped when she heard it. She wanted to turn around to take a look, but the person beside her gently patted her head. "Is what they said true? Did the Battle King really kill the innocent?" Didn't understand. "I don't know if he killed the innocent, but I know that what that person said just now wasn't the truth," Ning Chen said softly. "Why?" Was puzzled. "Because he's too bad at lying." Ning Chen calmly said, "A person's eyes are different when they're telling a memory and when they're making up a lie. I'll teach you when I have time." "Okay." Nodded with interest. Could a person tell a lie from their eyes? How come she had never heard of this before? Ning Chen was really smart. If only she was as smart as him. The two of them walked for 10 miles before the Battle King caught up with them. The smell of blood on his body was extremely pungent. Pinched her nose and turned around to look at the figure. She was on guard. Was this person chasing after them to silence them? "Friend, please wait," said the Battle King. Ning Chen stopped and turned around to look at him. He calmly asked, "What is it?" "How about we go together?" asked the Battle King. Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. "It would be my honor." "Please." The Battle King nodded and followed him. The three of them walked together through the desolate wilderness, heading towards the 10th city. "Friend, how should I address you?" "Ning Chen." "I'm Ren Zhengfei." "Nice to meet you," said the Battle King calmly. "Nice to meet you," Ning Chen said with a smile. "Brother Ning, you've left for 3 years and now you're back. I'm sure you're going to amaze the world," said the Battle King softly. "Brother Ren, you're overthinking it." Ning Chen shook his head. "I'm only back because I have something to do. Everything else has nothing to do with me. There's something I don't understand. With Brother Ning's strength, you should be famous throughout the world. Why do you have to hide your abilities?" asked the Battle King. "Everyone has their own ambitions." Ning Chen smiled. "Brother Ren, you're one of the 9 kings. Now that I've met you, you're truly a dragon among men. Your strength is extraordinary. Brother Ning, you flatter me. These are all arranged by meddlesome people." "They're meaningless," said the Battle King carelessly. Er's mouth twitched as she listened to their conversation. These two fellows were really hypocrites. Only now did the Battle King notice her. Looking at the person beside him, he asked, "Who is this little girl?" A descendant of a senior. "She's currently learning martial arts by my side," replied Ning Chen. "Her talent really isn't bad," the warlord said with a look of admiration on his face. "Thank you for your praise, Senior Ren." Smiled sweetly and replied. The Battle King was startled. This was his first time being called a senior, so he wasn't used to it. Ning Chen gently patted her head. This girl was being naughty again. Stuck out her tongue at the person beside her and giggled. Brother Ning's relationship with your disciple really is good. The Battle King's eyes flashed with a strange light. This girl has been spoiled since she was a child, so she's a bit impudent. Brother Ren, please forgive her, smiled Ning Chen. The Battle King nodded. He could see that this girl's position in this person's heart was not ordinary. Half a day later, in a heavenly city floating above the starry sky, a huge heavenly pillar towered into the clouds, its head and tail could not be seen. Brother Ning, please, said the Battle King. Ning Chen thought for a moment, then waved his hand. A ray of sword light flashed past, and for the first time, he left his name on the pillar. The Battle King also left his mark on the pillar. I want one too. Yin ran over, pulled out the hairpin in her hair, and carved her name on the pillar. Right at that moment, outside of the boundless space-time, in a majestic palace hall, illusory figures appeared with serious expressions. Mo Gates' ninth disciple has appeared again, said the head of the Z-Way Starfield. The Battle King seems to be with him too. The All-Heaven Starfield's head said with a serious expression. This is troublesome. That person's existence is truly a variable that will erupt at any time, said a third person. Dawn Moon Pavilion's master. Another person spoke. He looked to the illusory figure that had not spoken the entire time. What's wrong? Everyone, are you all still planning to expel him from the ancient Starry Sky Road? Before he violates the rules, I advise everyone to not make that decision, said the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master indifferently. Send someone to talk with him, said the sixth person. It's useless. The corners of the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master's mouth curled up. She said, what he wants is the time restriction. Before the ancient battlefield opens, can anyone convince that old monster to hand over the time restriction? Hearing that, everyone grew silent. It was truly troublesome. There's one more thing that I believe everyone should pay attention to, said Shinji. What is it? Asked the head of the Z-Way Starfield. Shinji looked into the distance and said, the news of Mo Gates' ninth disciple's appearance will likely be known by others soon. With that being the case, those youngsters that are searching for him will also become quite troublesome. Everyone's eyes narrowed. They had nearly forgotten about that matter. There were quite a few people searching for Mo Gates' ninth disciple on the ancient Starry Sky Road. There were all sorts of grudges and grievances. If they were to truly encounter one another, once the situation spiraled out of control, there would likely be a great battle on the level of the ancient Starry Sky Road. The root of everything is still that child. Dawn Moon Pavilion's master, it's best that you make another trip, said the head of the All-Heaven Starfield. Warning him too many times will only produce the opposite effect. Rather than restricting that child again and again, it's better to have those law enforcers maintain order on the ancient Starry Sky Road. As long as no one provokes him, nothing will happen, said the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master indifferently. On the ancient Starry Sky Road, in an unremarkable city, the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master was looking at the swaying stars in the sky. Specks of light flashed through her eyes. Hung Wan walked over and softly asked, Pavilion Master, you seem to have something on your mind. He's returned, said the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master softly. Hung Wan was startled. Why hadn't she heard anything about it? There's no need to guess. Right now, only us old monsters know about it. He returned in a very low-key manner. If he hadn't left his name on the 10th pillar, it would have been very difficult for us to detect it, explained the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master. Pavilion Master, young Master Ning clearly doesn't want his appearance to cause too many disputes. Why do you Starfield sovereigns always keep an eye on him? Asked Hung Wan with a worried expression. The tree wants to be still, but the wind won't stop, sighed the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master softly. Chapter 711. War Chariot after War Chariot passed on the Starry Sky ancient path. Peerless young experts stood on the chariot, their auras extraordinary. 5 years had passed since the ancient path opened, and no one could change the fact that the 9 kings stood side by side. The chaotic ancient path was turbulent, but on the surface, it was calm. Large-scale battles gradually decreased, and countless factions grew rapidly, especially around the 9 kings. Countless young experts gathered, forming a force that couldn't be ignored. In front of the 12th heavenly pillar, Hong Yi brought the little girl over. After leaving her name, she left. There was no battle or publicity. Knowing destiny returned quietly and did his own thing. Far away, the War King looked into the distance. Behind him, many young experts stood quietly, waiting for his orders. War King, should we continue on our way? Asked a young man with an unusually powerful aura. Yes. The War King nodded, looked away, and left. On the long starry sky ancient path, the two of them walked forward. War chariots passed them from time to time, disappearing into the distance. How long will it take? Asked Dean. It should be soon. She's one of the 9 kings, so it shouldn't be too hard to find, said Ning Chen softly. That's what you said 3 months ago, said Yin. Ning Chen smiled and said, thank you for your patience. After all, this path is very long, and it won't be easy to find someone. What if we find her? She won't give it to you of her own accord, said Yin, worriedly. You can snatch her. Ning Chen smiled. Really? Yin-er's eyes lit up. Not really. Ning Chen lightly hit the little girl's head and said, a person should have a bottom line. If someone else wants something, they have to snatch it, said Yin-er unhappily. Others are others, and we are us. Ning Chen looked at the war chariots passing by and said softly, Yin-er, we can't expect others to be flawless. The most important thing is to be good at ourselves. Yin-er pouted, but she still nodded obediently. After walking for a long time, more and more war chariots passed by on the ancient path. They were like shooting stars flying into the distance. At first, she didn't think much of it, but gradually, Yin-er also felt that something was wrong. Something seems to have happened. Yin-er pulled on the sleeve of the person beside her. Yes. Ning Chen nodded. A light flashed in his eyes. Just now, he felt that there was a problem. Now, it seemed that the problem was not small. Is there a treasure? Yin-er asked expectantly. Go and take a look. If it doesn't have an owner, I'll help you snatch it, suggested Ning Chen. All right. Yin-er nodded her head vigorously. She loved collecting treasures the most. After coming to an agreement, the two of them immediately sped up and rushed toward the place where the crowd was gathered. Several hundred kilometers away, above a divine ruin that floated between heaven and earth, multicolored light flourished, as if the omen of the birth of a treasure, shocking everyone. In front of the ruins of God, one figure after another appeared. They stared at the place where the multicolored light was floating, not daring to be careless for even a moment. In the nearest heavenly cities, the executors of the ancient road of the stars looked off into the distance, their eyes flickering with strange gleams. What was that? Have you found out what it is? Above the void, an illusory figure with a terrifying aura walked out and asked. Reporting to the Star Lord, we're still unable to confirm it at the moment, one of the enforcers said respectfully. Keep watching. If there's no need, don't make a move, the illusory figure instructed. Yes. The enforcers obeyed. In front of the ruins of God, Ning Chen rushed over with Yin-er. After sweeping the surroundings with his divine sense, he turned his attention to the multicolored light up ahead. The surrounding young experts didn't pay too much attention to their arrival. A peaked Great Circle expert and a little girl weren't much of a threat to them. Ning Chen, are those two also the 9 kings? Yin-er asked softly, pointing at the 2 people standing at the front. Ning Chen looked over and nodded. The one in blue is definitely one. The one in white is a bit weaker, so I don't think so. But they're not far off. Oh. Ian nodded. After thinking for a moment, she asked, when we snatch the treasures, you'll have no problem fighting those two, right? Also, I can't beat a single one of their subordinates, right? We'll talk about it when we snatch them. If we can't beat them, we'll just run, said Ning Chen indifferently. Ian waved her small fists. It wasn't like she was going to fight those old freaks. She had no ambition. As the two of them spoke, the multicolored light above the ruins of God grew more and more dazzling. Suddenly, a pillar of light shot into the sky. The starlight in the sky flickered and continuously entered the pillar of light. It's here. When everyone saw this, their expressions froze. In the next moment, the entire ruins of God exploded. An ancient and terrifying aura spread out, and the few people closest to it were instantly sent flying. Behind the crowd, Ning Chen's expression changed slightly. Without saying anything, he pulled the little girl and immediately retreated, not daring to stay for a moment. What's wrong? Why did you go and snatch the treasures? Ian hadn't noticed and asked anxiously. We've hit the jackpot. Saving our lives is more important. As he spoke, Ning Chen sped up and brought the little girl far away. He knew it. How could there be such a good thing waiting for him? Behind them, a terrifying pressure descended. A waterfall of blood mist exploded, and a few people with weaker cultivations were directly swallowed by the figure in the blood mist. Ian returned back. After seeing this tragic scene, her little face instantly turned pale. What was that? In the nearest heavenly cities, the enforcers felt the powerful pressure in the distance, and their expressions changed. Oh no! Outside the boundless void, in a majestic palace, silhouettes appeared one after another. Without any superfluous words, they went straight to the main topic. A god has appeared not far from the 12th pillar. Currently, the casualties are disastrous. Which of your main bodies is the closest to the 12th pillar? Asked the person in the middle. At least half a day, said the All Heaven Starfield's manager. We're all so close, said the Spirit Void Starfield's manager. There's no time. Shinji's expression turned serious. Half a day is enough for him to devour all the living beings on that ancient path and return to his peak state. At that time, even if we rush over, we will not be able to stop him. How many enforcers are there in the vicinity? Asked the Ziwei Starfield's manager. 3. However, their strength is only at the mid-corporeal realm. It's impossible for them to delay us until we arrive, said the All Heaven Starfield's manager. Immediately check the 12th pillar. How many young kings are there? Said the person who spoke first. 1. The Spirit Void Starfield's manager's consciousness returned. A moment later, his expression turned serious. Wait, Mo Gates' 9th son has also just arrived. Hearing that, everyone was startled. Then, strange expressions appeared on their faces. Ask him to cooperate with the 3 enforcers to stall for some time. He only needs to last until we arrive, said the All Heaven Starfield's manager. This is a matter of life and death. How could he possibly do such a thing? Asked the Heavenly Mist Starfield's manager. Right now, the strongest person there is that child. No matter what, we must convince him. As they spoke, everyone looked to the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master. She was the one who had interacted with that child the most. Perhaps she would have a way. It's not impossible for me to step forward. However, have you all thought of the price? Asked the Dawn Moon Pavilion's master indifferently. On another ancient path, before the heavenly arrival peak, Xia Zi had blocked the 7 Kills Palace's palace master. Without a doubt, he stood at the apex of the 9 kings. Behind Yan Yuntian, 13 followers walked out. Leave them to me. Luofei appeared before the 13 followers and calmly said. Amen. Xia Zi nodded. With a wave of his hand, demonic aura surged out. A sword covered in demonic runes descended. The instant he grasped the sword, wind and lightning erupted. Devil! Yan Yuntian's eyes sank. Why did the 9 kings keep making an enemy out of him? He didn't have time to ask. The demonic aura had already engulfed the surrounding 50 miles. The cold moon hung high in the sky, making the atmosphere even colder. Devil's sword, reincarnation. Without saying a word, he unleashed his killing move. The devil's sword stabbed into the ground, and a terrifying stream of swords soared into the sky. There were tens of thousands of them. Yan Yuntian's eyes narrowed. He took a step forward, and the Forget Cloud divine halberd appeared in his hand. The halberd pierced through the air and collided with the stream of swords. With a loud rumble, the heavenly arrival peak violently shook. A black-robed figure flashed past, and the devil's sword's cold killing intent shook the sky. When the sword and halberd collided, Yan Yuntian immediately felt a huge pressure. The ground beneath his feet collapsed, spreading out for dozens of miles. The fierce battle didn't allow for the slightest respite. Xia Zi's body was filled with killing intent. His white hair fluttered in the wind. Whether he was a sovereign or a devil emperor was no longer important. On the other side, Luofei blocked the 13 experts by herself. Her sparkling moonlight sealed the world, and the 9 heavens ice palace descended. The 2 battles were equally intense. Figures constantly crossed each other, bringing out a glaring killing intent. Swordsmen and devils were both at the peak. An unprecedented pressure assaulted Yan Yuntian's body. The armor on Yan Yuntian's body flickered with 7 colors as it resisted the sword light. With the divine halberd and treasured armor, Palace Master 7 Kills reappeared with unparalleled battle prowess. He had both offense and defense, and he looked down on the younger generation. Seeing that the armor was difficult to break, Xia Zi's demonic aura surged out, and the demonic sword in his hand instantly changed. The Mad Doomsday Sword appeared. The sword was more than 6 feet long, and it shone with a dazzling cold light. When the halberd and sword collided again, the sword's momentum was completely different from before. It shook off the halberd and pierced toward the former's chest. Ah! With a groan, blood spilled out. The treasured armor, which had exceeded its limit, showed a flaw. The sword entered an inch into the body, bringing out a splash of blood. Heaven-burning demonic flame. After succeeding in one move, Xia Zi turned the sword in his hand. The demonic flame on the sword burned brightly, and it entered the former's body. Yan Yuntian groaned again and waved his halberd to shake off the battle. He flipped his left palm, and the divine war chariot appeared. Runes appeared, and the heavenly peng tore through the sky and entered the former's body. The heavenly peng increased its speed, and Yan Yuntian's figure instantly disappeared. The Oblivion divine halberd broke through the sky and slashed toward the devil emperor. With a piercing sound, blood spilled out. A deep wound appeared on the devil emperor's left arm, and blood flowed out, dyeing his clothes red. The devil emperor was injured, and his eyes were filled with coldness. His murderous nature lingered in his eyes. The heavenly peng's soul. Unfortunately, it can't change your fate of death. Xia Zi waved his sword to shake off the halberd. He opened his eyes and half knelt down. In that instant, the heavens and earth surged, and thunder rumbled. In a world-shaking vision, black feathers fluttered in the sky. The 12 wings of sin unfolded behind the sovereign, and his divine might shook the world. Chapter 712. In the boundless starry sky, pillars stood tall on an ancient road. It was unknown who had erected them, but they had existed in the starry sky for countless years. Not far from the 12th pillar, a god had appeared in the ruins of God. Its terrifying divine might shook everything within 10,000 miles. Many young experts' bodies exploded under the divine might. Their blood and chi were devoured by the god to repair their bodies. At the front, a red light flashed past. It was running faster than anyone else. A few hundred miles away, Ning Chen stopped and looked behind him. Rays of light flashed past. What a powerful aura. It had probably entered the true realm. What kind of monster is it? Peeked out her head from behind him. A god. Ning Qin said. Like the vermilion bird and Luotian, this person wasn't human. He had lived for countless years, so it was best not to provoke him. How unlucky. I thought there were treasures, said disappointedly. Let's go. It'll be troublesome if that guy catches up. Ning Qin said, then pulled the little girl beside him and was about to leave. Suddenly, the wind and clouds in the sky stirred. An illusory figure appeared and blocked the two of them. Ning Qin stopped in his tracks when he saw who it was, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Brother Ning, long time no see, said the illusory figure in the wind and clouds. House Master, it can't be a coincidence that I met you here, right? Asked Ning Qin calmly. Of course not. I came here to ask Brother Ning to stop this person for a moment. 2 Starfield managers will be here soon to replace Brother Ning, said the Dawn Moon House Master. Oh. Ning Qin raised his eyebrows. House Master, you really think highly of me. It'll be difficult to stop a true realm god. Let's not beat around the bush. I understand Brother Ning's abilities. If you cooperate with the 3 enforcers, it won't be impossible for you to stop this person for a moment, said the Dawn Moon House Master. House Master, please find someone else. Ning Qin said casually and continued to walk forward with the little girl beside him. As long as Brother Ning can stop him, once the 2 Starfield managers get rid of him, his god's source will belong to Brother Ning, said the Dawn Moon House Master. Ning Qin stopped and looked back at the figure in the sky. He said indifferently, House Master, I'm becoming more and more curious about your true identity. You will know in the future. Brother Ning, this transaction can be considered fair, right? The Dawn Moon Brothel Master asked. Not bad. However, I would like to know, how long exactly is the half an hour that you spoke of? Ning Qin looked at the former and asked. 6 hours, the Waning Moon Brothel Master replied. Ha, you're really quick. Deal, Ning Qin replied calmly. I will wait for Brother Ning's good news. As soon as he finished speaking, the wind and clouds swirled, and the illusory figure dispersed, disappearing without a trace. After the Dawn Moon Brothel mistress left, Ning Chen's gaze turned serious as he looked behind him. You don't really believe that black-hearted merchant's words, do you? Er's face flashed with worry. The benefits outweigh the risks. It's worth a try. Ning Qin said softly. He had been stuck at the Great Fulfillment Realm for a long time, and he had to try his best to find a way. Regardless of whether it was the God's Scroll or the God's Origin, he had to give it a try. He didn't believe in heavenly fate. He only believed in himself. It wasn't easy for him to be rewarded for his hard work, so he had to cherish it. As he spoke, 3 figures swiftly rushed over from the distance. All of them were at the mid-corporeal stage and were abnormally powerful. You stay here. Don't run around. I'll come pick you up once the fight is over. Ning Qin stroked the little girl's hair and said softly. All right. You have to be careful. If you can't beat them, just run. Looked at Ning Qin and worriedly warned him. Don't worry, I won't be impulsive. Ning Qin nodded in response. He took a step forward and flashed forward. In the distance, the 3 enforcers of the ancient Road of the Stars sensed a powerful aura and quickly rushed over. A moment later, the 4 of them appeared in front of the god ruins, blocking the path of the god spirit. Mo Gates' 9th son. One of the enforcers looked at the red-robed youth and said, Many thanks for your help. You have heaven and earth extreme speed, so I'll leave the task of restricting this person's attacks to you. All right. Ning Qin waved his hand, and Phoenix Flame's sword. A blood-red sword appeared in his hand. The instant he grasped it, sword chi dazzled. Phoenix. The god spirit's eyes narrowed. As a fellow god spirit, you're actually helping a human? You really disappoint me. What is a god spirit? Is eternal life a god? Or are you saying that those who stand above all living things are gods? The red-robed youth flashed over, and the phoenix moved with extreme speed. It was a true realm god. The palm and sword collided, and the god spirit's physical body, which was comparable to metal and stone, received the sharp sword. After receiving the first move, the god spirit countered with a forceful counterattack. When the three enforcers saw this, they gathered their essence and joined forces to receive the god spirit's attack. With a boom, blood splattered, and the three of them were forced back several steps. In just one move, the difference between them had been decided. Be careful. One of the enforcers wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Without a doubt, this would be the most difficult battle of their lives. If they were careless, they might lose their lives. But no matter what, they couldn't let this person leave. The other two enforcers also focused. 6 hours was the limit of their life and death. The battle had only just begun, but they were already at a disadvantage. Ning Chen frowned, and with a shout, the blood essence of the four symbols gods flew out, shining brightly. In the next moment, they merged into his body. Amidst the raging winds and waves, the phoenix ancestral awakening. Its black hair instantly turned red. Divine realm. Seeing this, the god spirit squinted his eyes. What a powerful origin aura. After devouring this person, his strength would immediately return to its peak. At the same time, in front of Tian Lai Peak, the flames of war raged. Black feathers fluttered in the sky. Behind the demon cultivator, the 12 wings of sin appeared. In an instant, the demon cultivator's demonic aura soared into the sky. Mad Doomsday's entire body was black. With a slash of his sword, the entire Tian Lai Peak collapsed. Debris flew everywhere, and pieces of it fell from the sky. The demon cultivator was beyond comprehension. With the wings of sin, his aura changed abruptly. In the blink of an eye, his sword slashed the sky. Yan Yuntian's pupils shrank. The Oblivion Cloud halberd met the sword head-on. With the support of the three supreme treasures, he resisted the demon cultivator's demonic aura. With a boom, wind and thunder roared in the sky. The demon cultivator advanced instead of retreating. The demon sword's murderous aura surged, breaking through the aftershock and slashing toward Yan Yuntian's heart. Purple chi from the east. Yan Yuntian held his halberd together, and a vast divine aura rose rapidly to meet Mad Doomsday's attack. The sound was earth-shattering. The strongest king of the younger generation fought the emperor of the demon cultivator. The halberd and the demon sword collided violently. Hundreds and thousands of li fell inch by inch as if they were being punished by the heavens. On the other side, the Eternal Night Sect's female disciple used the Moon Scroll's divine ability. Cold Palace descended from the sky, and the 13 young experts were unable to take half a step forward. Who are you people? As the battle reached its climax, Yan Yuntian became more and more alarmed. He gathered the power of his supreme treasures and strengthened his body. His cultivation continued to rise, and there were signs of him breaking into the corporeal realm. Demon sword, bury the heavens. Without saying a word, he used his killer move again. Xia Zi's demonic aura surged, and his white hair danced wildly. The demon sword's sword radiance soared into the sky. With a slash, the 9 heavens collapsed. Yan Yuntian stepped forward and gathered his true yuan. His halberd broke through the sky and collided with the bury the heavens sword. Ugh! Blood splattered. The sword and halberd collided, and the aftershock spread out. The rainbow armor could not withstand the continuous impact of the demon cultivator's demonic aura and shattered. Blood flowed out of the demon cultivator's hand. He was also injured by the aftershock. Is it finally broken? The demon sovereign did not care about his arm being injured. The battle intent in his eyes intensified. Now that the armor was broken, the battle should be over. With a wave of his hand, demonic waves surged out of the mad doomsday halberd. Black streams roared and surged. Under the cold moon, the area within 100 miles was affected by this terrifying demonic aura and violently shook. Yan Yuntian's eyes narrowed. He suppressed his injuries and gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth with a flip of his palm. The forgetting cloud god halberd's aura soared into the sky, and its power multiplied. Sorry, but you can't take his life yet. Just at this moment, a green flash of light descended from the sky. The peerlessly beautiful woman slashed out with the heavenly slash in her hand. A horrifying saber light slashed apart the battle. An instant later, she brought the injured Yan Yuntian away with her. Xia Zi swung his sword to deflect the green saber light. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked in the direction the two had left. On the other side of the battle, Luofei pushed away several people in front of her with a flip of her palm. She walked over and asked, "Did he escape?" Xia Zi nodded and said, "Someone interfered. However, the rainbow battle armor has been completely destroyed. This person has lost his protective armor and is no longer a threat." 1,000 miles away, light gathered and Lu Qingyi appeared with Palace Master 7 kills. "It's you." Yan Yuntian looked at the woman in front of him and said seriously. "Yan Yuntian, you're on your own now." Lu Qingyi said indifferently and turned to leave without saying anything else. She was also the head of the 3 palaces of the Ziwei Star. Helping him this time was her last favor. Palace Master Vanquisher had just left, and Yan Yuntian was about to leave to treat his injuries. Suddenly, his footsteps paused and he forgot about the horizon. Something's wrong. A green light shone brightly in the sky, and the sound of Buddha was heard. The shadow of a green lotus fell from the sky, and the moment it landed, a green divine spear broke through the air. The lotus breath gathered the power of Buddha, and it showed the elegance of stepping on celestials. Yan Yuntian swung his halberd to block the spear. With a bang, his heavily injured body could not withstand the Buddhist might. Blood flowed from his hands and dyed the halberd red. Without saying anything, the figure in green stepped forward. The green divine spear in her hand was like a dragon breaking through the clouds. Every move was meant to kill. Although she had a Buddhist body, she was willing to walk the path of Asura. With one move, blood flowed like a fountain. The more Yan Yuntian fought, the more frightened he became. However, his heavily injured body could not continue. Every move he blocked was followed by another. After a few rounds of pursuit, even one of the 9 kings had reached his limit. His armor was destroyed and his body was heavily injured. He could not withstand the shocking killing intent. "Who are you people?" For reasons unknown, Yan Yuntian had never heard of powerful opponents. He blocked with his halberd, but the sky was dyed red again. "Heavenly dragon breaks the city." The figure in green swept past. The green divine spear in her hand turned into a dragon and rushed towards the former. With a loud bang, the divine weapons collided and both flew out of her hands. At this moment, the woman turned her left hand and the divine weapon that flew out returned to her. Changing hands. The divine spear pierced through his body and blood spurted out. His unwilling eyes could no longer see the world clearly. The woman waved her hand and put away the divine spear. Without looking back, she walked away. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.